have to be quiet now. Mr. Newman's bringing the gavel.
All right, if everybody could take their seats, they're going to sit. Looks like it's standing room only.
Won't last for that.
Call the meeting to order. We'll start with the flag salute. Trustee Harris, would you lead us in the flag salute, please?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, the next item is agenda approval.
Mr. Mayor, we have a couple corrections to that, if you don't mind.
Sure, I was just going to point out that we did something different this time at Trustee Harris's request. We sent out the agenda early for the board to comment on, and we might probably try and do that every time.
For all board members to review it.
So you have some, I don't think we have a need for a closed session tonight.
No, we do not. So we would like to remove closed session. That's item 14A from the agenda. There's no need for that tonight. So 14A will be removed. And we would also like to have item 10L, as in Larry or something else, removed from this meeting as well, and it will be brought back at a later time.
All right.
I'll make the motion as amended.
I will second.
Okay, any public discussion?
If I can make one additional comment, we are having internet difficulties through our county office, and so tonight's meeting will not be live streamed. Our tech department is here on hand. They will tape it and they will upload it to the internet tomorrow.
Okay.
If we do it tonight, it's going to be choppy and bad quality.
All right.
So they're just going to do it that way, if that's all right. Thank you so much.
All right, so we've gotten through agenda approval. We're now moved to item 4A. Do we have any children here today?
We should vote on the agenda approval.
Oh, yes, we got to vote on the agenda approval. Make it official. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? None. So it carries. So we're now at item 4A, Brookside School presentation.
I don't know.
You're not even plugged in.
First of all, I want to say I'm super proud to be the principal of Brookside School. Thank you all. So, at Brookside, fabulous teachers and other staff members, fabulous staff members, are doing amazing things to support the whole child, including the arts, sciences, and physical education. So tonight we're going to have a taste of each one of those things. We'll start with kindergarten. Could all the kindergartners come up? Any more kindergartners? I got a shirt. Come on up.
Wyatt? Is that good? Should we video it?
So, here's our beautiful kindergarten kids, and we're so proud of them. Before we get started, I just want to say our boosters, our last, how many years Judy's been coming?
8 or 9.
8 or 9 years has sponsored Judy Fidel coming and giving us some staff development. And this year we've taken it and we're using it. The 3 teachers here are also taking a music class through Dominican. So the boosters supported this guy, giving us some extra information from Judy. So we're going to show a little bit off today.
Could we ask that all the teachers and staff that introduce themselves so everybody knows kind of who's who?
I'm Carol Grace-Pop and teacher Brookside.
Barbara Gonzalez, teacher kindergarten Brookside. Donna Allen, kindergarten Brookside. Classroom 1, 2, and 3.
So the first minute, we're gonna hold Brookside, our new Brookside pledge, okay?
Just the Brookside school there.
Oh, good. Hurry, yeah. Do you want to introduce what they're doing?
Okay, so our first song is called Brookside, and it's going to be led by Clara. And we'll show you how we can sing, what the kids can learn to sing. Different parts of the kids will sing at different times. So we're going to go right here. Brookside,
Brookside, Brookside is our school. Brookside, Brookside, Brookside is our school. Brookside, Brookside, Brookside is our school. Brookside, Brookside, Brookside is our school. I know.
So the next thing they're going to do is, in kindergarten, especially at the beginning of the year, we're not reading. By the end of the year, we are reading amazing things. But at the beginning, we don't quite have the skills yet. So Judy showed us this really neat method where you can use pictures or symbols. So we're going to be singing a song using pictures and symbols. And Logan, are you going to lead it for us today?
Yeah, that's a stick I picked.
That's the stick you picked? So Logan didn't know he was doing this, so he's just going to do it.
You're good with that
Okay,
stick,
Logan?
right?
Okay. So come on. You guys don't get to see the pictures. They get to see them today. Okay, Logan. Wait, get started. Ready? 1, 2, 3.
She'll be coming around the mountain when she comes. Woo, woo. She'll be coming around the mountain when she comes. Woo, woo. She'll be coming around the mountain. She'll be coming around the mountain. She'll be coming around the mountain when she comes. Woo, woo. She'll be driving 6-legged horses when she comes. Whoa, back. She'll be driving 6-legged horses when she comes. Whoa, back. She'll be driving 6-legged horses. She'll be driving 6-legged horses. She'll be driving 6-legged horses when she comes. Whoa, back. Woo, woo. Oh, we'll all go down to meet her when she comes. Hi, babe. Oh, we'll all go down to meet her when she comes. Hi, babe. Oh, we'll all go down to meet her. Oh, we'll all go down to meet her. Oh, we'll all go down to meet her when she comes. Hi, babe. Whoa, back. Woo, woo. Oh, we'll all eat chicken and dumplings when she comes. Yum, yum. Oh, we'll all eat chicken and dumplings when she comes. Yum, yum. Oh, we'll all eat chicken and dumplings. Oh, we'll all eat chicken and dumplings. Oh, we'll all eat chicken and dumplings when she comes. Yum, yum. Hi, babe. Whoa, back. Woo, woo. She'll be wearing red pajamas when she comes. Scratch, scratch. She'll be wearing red pajamas when she comes. Scratch, scratch. She'll be wearing red pajamas. She'll be wearing red pajamas. She'll be wearing red pajamas when she comes. Scratch, scratch. Yum, yum. Hi, babe. Whoa, back. Woo, woo. She'll be grandma when she comes. Snore, snore. She will have to sleep with grandma when she comes. Snore, snore. She will have to sleep with grandma. She will have to sleep with grandma. She will have to sleep with grandma when she comes. Snore, snore. Scratch, scratch. Yum, yum. Hi, babe. Whoa, back. Woo, woo.
Okay, so the other thing that we are learning, I'll take it up first, is to split the kids up so that they can all sing a song to the exact same tune. So we have picked our Brookside Pledge, which is the tune of Twinkle Twinkle, and which is also the tune of ABCs. Okay, so you might not understand the words, but you'll get the idea. The idea is that they can actually sing and concentrate on their song and sing their song and not be just distracted by the other singers, which is an amazing feat for an adult.
Just thought you had those.
Okay. Okay, you guys are mine? All right. Yeah.
Hey, what are we doing? Twinkle, twinkle? Yeah. You guys are doing book size pledge.
Stand up.
You guys ready?
Stand up. Watch my mouth. Ready?
1, 3.
I probably to do my best. I'm running math and all the rest. To listen, learn, and try each day. To be a friend in every way. If I do these things today, it will be a great good day.
And that's our lovely kindergartners.
I have the first grade teachers and their students.
They're second graders, so let's set an example.
So we have 2 first grade teachers here tonight
Miss Kay is here.
that did class projects for the science fair. So they're here to tell you all about it. This is Miss Pathetic. We have Miss Sudlow who's turning on over.
Okay, this is group 9, and we would like to present our science fair project to you.
This year in science we studied solids, liquids, and gases. For the science fair, our class did a project called Solids and Liquids. We guessed what we could do to make an ice cube melt fast and what we could do to make it melt slowly. First, we brainstormed different ways to turn the solid ice cube in liquid water. This is our hypothesis. We made a chart to show what students thought would make their ice cube melt cube the fastest. I thought that blowing on my ice cube would make it melt faster because my breath is hot than the ice cube. Each of us got one ice cube in a bag. We started the timer and tried to turn the ice cube into water. Students blew on the ice cube, put it in their mouth, put it in the sunlight, shook it in a cup, or put it in their jacket. We were allowed to try any way we wanted to melted our ice cube. We learned that ice cube need to change from solid to liquid. First, I put my ice cube in my jacket to keep it warm. Then I put it in my mouth. This made it melt fast. My ice cube melted the fastest in 4 minutes and 36 seconds. Yes, we guessed what would make our ice cube melt the slowest. we knew that we had to keep the action away from the heat, so we tried to keep them out of the sun. I thought if I did it in my feet, it would stay cool and not melt fast.
Some people put their ice cubes in cold water. Some put them under the table to hide from the sun. Many people put their ice cubes together in a paper bag. This kept them cold the longest. The ice cubes that melted the slowest was 1 hour, 15 minutes, and 21 seconds.
We got a blue ribbon for our class science project. We also got stickers, pencils, and erasers. It was a lot of fun. Science is awesome. Thank you for listening to our
Okay, but I'm recording, so
Some of you Louis's word can see what
otherwise your voice is good. And I don't want that while we're gonna have
My name is Ms. Sudlow, and I'm also a first grade teacher. And today I have Damien, Mariana, and Owen to help us present our science fair project. So we called ours Colorful Carnations, and we wanted to see how plants take in their nutrients. Owen is going to tell you which materials we used.
The materials we needed were food coloring, white carnation, cups, and water.
And Mariana is going to tell you the procedure we did. I'm sorry, Damien's going to tell you our procedure.
Miss Sudlow cut the stems diagonally. The cups were filled with water. Then we added about 20 drops of different color in each cup. Next, we made observations. 6 students thought red would absorb the fastest. 4 thought blue
So we made predictions to see which color would be absorbed the fastest into the flowers, and we took photos to record our observations. And Owen can tell you what we noticed after 1 hour.
Green had a little, yellow had like a little, red one had red didn't have any color.
And after 2 hours, what happened, Damien?
The greens got a little bit more, the yellow got a lot more, and the blue got a lot more.
Still nothing with red. And after we let it sit over the weekend, 3 days later, what happened, Mariana?
The green one got a little bit more color, the yellow one got all color, blue one a little bit, and red.
So red finally had color. So we concluded that yellow food coloring was absorbed the quickest. What else? And we have some student samples of diagrams and labeled drawings we drew of our carnations. And what did it win at the science fair?
We won a blue ribbon.
We also won a blue ribbon.
your teacher this year?
Gloria,
But let me videotape this. I'm so glad.
We've been very fortunate to have two amazing PE coordinators, Rachel Cash and Elliot Ramirez, and then there is Mr. Coons, our PE teacher. He's over in the corner. He's on music. So today, Rachel, you want to tell what we're doing?
Okay, so we've been working. Oh, Kate, you're here. This is great. I dreamt the last 2 nights that no kids were going to show up. So this is amazing. Everybody's wonderful. So we have been working. Not only do Ellie and I and the program that Mr. Coons puts together for us. We do a little bit of CrossFit. We do a little bit, a lot of burpees. Probably heard your kids talk about burpees. But we also do some dancing with the kids. I am a certified Zumba instructor specializing in children. So my partner Ellie and I, we taught the kids a few dances. So we just want to demonstrate 2 of the songs. One song you guys will recognize. It's an oldie but goodie, but we just put a different swing on it. And okay, so I'm actually going to be right here facing these guys, okay? So, girls, scoot back just a little bit, okay? All right. You guys, if you can take a step back. Quiet. All right, you guys, I'm sorry. This space is really crowded, but we'll make it work. Okay, Mr. Coons? And it's going to be loud. I'm sorry.
Yeah! You'll find out.
Ready?
Yeah. next one is a variation. Oh, straight here. A variation of a song that you guys already know, but it's our version of it. Resting position. And I have to say thank you to Mr. Hammond for donating sticks for us, brand new ones.
You didn't really have a choice in the matter.
I just got my little one and I'll bring her back. She's too petite.
All right, resting position.
You can stay right.
I want to be right in the back. Behind you.
All right, Mr. Coons.
Okay. I will not.
Also wrote this song for Brookside, and you'll recognize the tune.
You guys ready? Over here? Ready? This school is our school. This school is my school. We call it Brookside.
Boys and girls, thank you so much.
You guys ready? Now the hard work begins. Go find your mommy and dad.
Come over here, guys. Okay.
Let's take a 2-minute break.
So that concludes our presentation.
Sure. Oh, yeah. All right. Okay. No. Thanks, Laura. Gavin, that's her last name. Bye, Ivan. It's super cool to see you again. Bye, Ivan. I'll have to look it up. That's Julia. Bye, 2015. Rachel Cat. Hi Oh, it did get covered. Let Chris go ahead and give him a couple laughs.
All right.
Get everybody back on
So
track.
get started again. We have to thank our superintendent for coming up with these presentations. They're designed to get everybody in a good mood as we move forward with the rest of the meeting.
They're educational.
All right. The next item is the extended learning program presentation, which is not an action item, it's an information item, but it's going to be pure educational talk.
Thank you, Mr. President, and I'm personally exhausted after 2 classes in Zumba here, but thank you for that. Extended Learning Program, there has been some discussion about it this year, and maybe looking at the structure that it's in. It is, for lack of another term, it used to be called the GATE program, Gifted and Talented Education, and it's morphed into Extended Learning Program. It's been that way for a long time. We test our students in 2nd grade at Brookside in order to identify them into the Extended Learning Program. And there's other criteria by which students will qualify other than the RAVEN test, which is the test that we do. The district has relied on a lot of support from the community, from retired teachers. Suzanne Matheson has done a great job helping us identify those students and conducting that test. But we want to examine that program and just kind of have dialogue on how that structure is moving forward. So tonight, Mr. Haschek, who is the WTA president, would like to speak regarding this, and I know there are several members of the community that would also like to comment. So if I could open the floor with your permission, Mr. Haschek.
All right.
Welcome, John.
Thank you. Hard to follow that show. So anyway, thank you for putting this on the agenda. And you know, I sent you out the feedback that we got in response to a WTA questionnaire, trying to see if there was a position that we should take about how ELP is configured at this point. Okay, and you all got that feedback. So we all want what is best for our students. Parents certainly want what is best for their children. Teachers want what is best for all of our students. The question is how to provide the best education for all students. Students have strengths in various modalities of learning. One might learn through listening, one might learn through reading or social engagement or sharing, while other students learn through physical movement. Okay? We have a system in Willits schools where students take a test known as Ravens in the 2nd grade, and that determines how they are tracked throughout the grades. If a student is feeling sick, tired, stressed on that day, it's too bad. Okay? If a student's parents do a Google search on how to game the test, they get plenty of help. Education professionals have fought for multiple measure assessments, especially in high stakes testing, for many years. This is a single test with huge implications for students. It is stated that 1% of students who take the test are gifted. In Willits, we have continually said that 12 to 15 students in each grade level are gifted or ELP. When there are about 100 students in each grade, the 12 to 15 seem like an arbitrary number to create a class of ELP. Then the rest of the class is filled, in part, with students whose parents know how to advocate for their children. They can pressure teachers to fill out the form that says their child is exceptionally curious or inquisitive and is bored in a normal class. Or they can go straight to the principal and request that their child is placed in this special class. This system does a disservice to our students. Dr. Carol Dweck, a world-renowned psychologist at Stanford, has written extensively on growth versus fixed mindset. Teachers even had an in-service presentation on it last year. The premise is that if you label a child gifted, slow, genius, whatever, this does damage to the child. The child will do whatever it takes to maintain that positive label without regard to learning and exploring strategies to learning. The negative label obviously has negative consequences. One teacher who went through the Willits schools says that she still remembers that the class next door was the one with the smart kids. Many years later, and that stigma is still with her. When I was a teacher, when I was in the teacher credentialing program at UCLA, all the teacher candidates were called to a room one night, and we had this special meeting. The lead professor said that the professors had been carefully observing us and that they had determined who would be best for teaching the gifted students, who would be best for teaching normal students, and then who would be best for teaching special ed students. The professor then read this list out loud. I was in the normal group, and I still remember wondering what I had done to get placed into the normal group. The professor's point was how it feels to be labeled, and this is what we do to our students with this type of tracking. All this has to do with what we do to our students by tracking the students from 3rd through middle school. ELP classes at Blosser have physically bigger rooms. ELP students are offered extra after-school enrichment classes, and they usually get a more experienced teacher. All of this stuff contributes to classrooms that you'll see are inequitable. According to the feedback WTA received when we sent out a survey of WTA members about how they thought of about how the ELP program was implemented, every response was critical of how the schools currently do ELP. You have that feedback. You may hear from parents who are in favor of this approach. ELP parents need to know that this approach is not in the best interest of their children. Parents of non-ELP students would really be kind of outraged if they knew exactly what was going on and should be made aware of how it is being implemented currently. We need a new approach, and Laura Rowland, Blosser Lane special ed teacher, is here to show that there is a different approach that is generally accepted as the model by which the needs of all students can be addressed. So if I could, I'd I'm going to call on Laura in a second. But WTA is recommending that the board form a committee to figure out how to proceed into the future in order to provide an excellent education for all students. So with that, Laura could show her model.
Thank you, John.
Thank you.
So, hi. As John said, my name's Laura Rowland, and I'm a proponent of response to intervention. It's been around for more than 10 years, and many school districts use a response to intervention to meet the needs of all their students. Typically, RTI, or response to intervention, is used to meet the needs of the struggling student. And it's a way of providing intervention to a student at the first sign that they need help, that they're struggling, performing below grade level. So that's typically how we see the RTI model used. But as schools are looking at equity and kind of revamping models that they're using in systems, they're looking at the RTI pyramid for their gifted students too. So this is an example of what a school district in Colorado did and how they use the RTI model. They're basically tiers of intervention for struggling learners as well as for gifted learners. So when this was presented to WTA, my first thought was we don't want to disband something without replacing the void, and all students need to have their needs met. So one idea would be to look at, I would love to see our school district adopt RTI, school district-wide, and then perhaps look at how RTI can also be used for the gifted as well as the struggling student. Thanks.
Could you,
Yeah.
it's just like a spreadsheet. I'm not
Yeah.
quite sure that I follow. For some reason, I'm visually, if I was a student here now, they probably would identify me as visually impaired in terms of presentation of material. So
Okay,
would you
I'm
explain
sorry.
this chart
I
to us?
apologize. Yeah, I'd be happy to. So the way that our response to intervention, it's a tiered approach. So the bottom level of the pyramid is what's given to all the students in the school.
Okay.
And this, based on data, this first tier meets the needs of approximately 85% of our students, 80 to 85%. But we know that not all kids fit into that tier 1. So what do we do with those who have more needs than can be met here at tier 1? We move them up to tier 2, and at tier 2 we provide either interventions for the struggling students or acceleration for the exceptional students, the gifted students. And so that's what this graph is showing you, that when you're looking at it on the right side, they're showing ideas of how the program would accelerate for a gifted student, and then how interventions would be given for the struggling student on the left side. It does require some background knowledge on RTI, so I'm sorry. I'll be happy to present on RTI, but I just thought this would be a way to present an alternative model to, our ELP program.
And these different strategies can be done within the same classroom with students at all 3 levels.
Perhaps, but at some tiers they can be pulled out of the classroom.
Yes.
So some of the tiers could require more intensive intervention or more intensive enrichment,
Very good.
as the case may be. Are there any other
No,
questions?
thank you.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi there. I'm Lisa May, and I am actually the ELP. I'm so short. I have to so you can see me. I am actually the ELP coordinator for the district, as well as for Blosser Lane, and as well as an ELP teacher for 4th grade at Blosser. And I was quite surprised to hear from John yesterday that this was WTA's position, because I am also WTA, and this was the first time I had heard that this was a position from my union. And I also wanted to add that I have not seen any of those emails or any of that information. And I also responded to the email as well as the ELP coordinator. So just a little bit more information about me. My undying, absolutely 100% dedication to education is the highest quality education for 100% of our students, 100% of the time. Absolutely. I will die on that hill, I promise you. And Pat can attest for my tenacity about those types of things. I've worked relentlessly for that for my 20 years as an educator. I became a public school teacher for a really good reason, and that's why. So I am not into any program that discriminates or is elite or makes kids feel like they don't belong. So I want to make that ultra clear. So gifted students in our education are what we call a special population. And as adults in the real world, you know that our world is filled with special populations. In a school, some typical special populations are students who are learning English as a second language. We have students who are struggling learners. We also have gifted learners. As you move up through the grades, our special populations become band or art or college bound. The world is filled with special populations. And gifted students are a special population that have specific needs that need to be met. And it's our job as educators to meet them. Remember, highest quality, 100% all the time. So, and it also, giftedness cuts across all subgroups. English learners are gifted, socioeconomically disadvantaged kids are gifted, you know, all ethnicities. It cuts across every subgroup, giftedness. And there are several models for serving gifted kids. The current model that we've been using at Willits Unified is what we call the cluster model. It is highly supported by research for many, many years. And what the cluster model is that you're grouping students who are identified as gifted in a classroom so that they can work together. Because one of the needs of a gifted student is to work with other students that are like-minded. And so we've been doing this at Gloucester, and I understand they also are doing a similar type thing at Bechtel. And then it changes once they get into high school. The one major benefit about cluster grouping is that there's no addition, it's very affordable because you don't need an extra teacher for pull-out. You don't need a gate teacher. You don't need to house a gate teacher. It's in the regular classroom. So it's very economically sound in order to do that. The one thing that is essential and is training, adequate training in reaching the gifted learner. And you know, the recession hit us all so hard, all schools so hard. And so there's been a bit of a, that's been a missing piece for us. And you as our board members know there's been a lot of missing pieces because of the recession. However, now that things are getting better slowly, you know, that we are hoping that we can begin to provide more training for our teachers. And that would be not just the ELP teachers, but all of our teachers so that they can meet those needs of those populations in their classrooms. Research has supported that that raising awareness of gifted students, the needs of gifted students, benefits all students. So I have a cluster group in my classroom with general ed students as well. They're all receiving that instruction. However, for my gifted students, they can work together on a special project that the other students aren't ready for. And rather than having a pull-out where they're meeting with a teacher for an hour or even sometimes a half hour, once or twice a week, they're not going to be able to dedicate that type of time, or they're not going to get the support that they need in order to really delve deep into those projects. And with Common Core now, clustering is dovetails perfectly with Common Core because Common Core is that students are progressing along a continuum, and they're all progressing, you know, at their own rate. And we realize now as educators and professionals that that is the real world, that students progress at various rates. But what Common Core also mandates that we are allowing a lot of time for collaboration and communication and creativity. And those gifted students thrive on that. All students thrive on that. But gifted students have specific needs that they need help with from an educator. I'm getting nervous, so. All right. Now, I do want to say thank you to John and WTA for bringing this to light, because our program hasn't really been reviewed. And this is an excellent opportunity for us to refine it, reflect on our practices, and refine it, which is always going to provide us with the highest quality education for 100% of the students, 100% of the time. Also what we would like to present, or one of the ideas that has been presented for the ELP program, is to have more than one cluster group. We have, I think traditionally, and I've only been here for 4 years, but traditionally I think there has been 2, sometimes 1, depending on the number of students. And with having smaller clusters, with more teachers providing that education, then again, you're going to benefit more students, because more students will be exposed to that type of those techniques and strategies and ideas that are pertinent, especially to gifted students. Another thing to keep in mind is that when gifted students are placed in a traditional classroom, they actually show the least academic growth. And that's because they're not getting their needs met. They're not being allowed to excel beyond the classroom level. Now, we know as educated adults that gifted adults are those people that have Mark Zuckerberg, Bill Gates, Robin Williams. Those were all gifted adults, and they don't, and you also, if you do the research on them, you will notice that many of them did not do well in school. And that's because their needs were not being met in the traditional classroom. And I would hate to see our district go to a place where we would not meet needs of students. That is a sin to me. It's not okay to not meet the needs of our students. Our job as a public education facility is to meet the needs of all our students. I am not at all interested in making any students feel like they are less than. I personally was a gifted student, and to tell you the truth, I didn't get it. I kept looking over my shoulder thinking they must be talking about somebody else because I don't feel gifted. But I was identified, and it was a pull-out program. It was very ineffective, but you know, the idea to think that somehow gifted students are elite is really inappropriate, because that's not true. We're human beings, and we're all at different levels. And it really bothers me that this would be presented to you in a way that makes it look like we're not doing the best for our students. And I just want to reiterate one more time that I am absolutely dedicated to the highest quality education for 100% of our students, 100% of the time. Thank you.
Anyone else would like to speak on this?
Yes. Well, I'm sorry, John.
You've been drafted.
I don't really know what WTA is asking.
Your name,
me
please?
this. Oh, Mackenzie Erickson. I apologize. I teach the ELP program at Bechtel Grove. I'm the coordinator at Bechtel Grove. This is my first year doing it. I'm not really sure what WTA is asking for from the board. I didn't know that it was board responsibility or policy to dictate how we place students. It's almost like, I don't understand it. We don't ask how to place our special ed students any more than we would ask how to place our ELP students. So I don't understand really what we're asking for, and not 100% of WTA is on board with disbanding the ELP program. My son is in the program. I think it's a great program. Like Lisa was saying, we're interested in doing, like if you think about it, there's maybe 18 to 14 in some grades. There's only 6 or 7 kids that are designated ELP. And so if we did do 2 cluster groups, 9 and 9, that's fine. And what's happening, what I think is happening with these, like, as, did you say elite classrooms or something like that? Like, I don't know, whatever classrooms, is maybe you have the ELP cluster, but then maybe you have parent request on top of that. So then you're getting the ELP students plus all the parent requested students to be in that very same classroom. So then it seems different, it seems like a different makeup than it might be.
Could you explain that, how parent request works into this?
I think maybe parent requests, because people who are involved in their students' education are going to request certain teachers, right? Whether it's they do first, second, third choice. And so you have the group of ELP students, plus then you might have the group of highly involved parents in that same classroom. So then it makes the classroom makeup a little bit different than potentially different classrooms. I don't know, but I'm just thinking that might be something that would play into this idea of disbanding the ELP program. I don't agree with it. The kids in my classroom, all the students in my classroom, I have a variety of kids reading from a 3rd grade to a college level in 7th grade and 8th grade. All of them are receiving like the AVID strategies, because I have the AVID students in my classroom as well, and I have ELP students. So everybody's benefiting from every single strategy that I'm using. And it's not like I don't have the best classes at the school or anything like that. I have different thinkers, but a lot of people, other teachers would say the same thing. I mean, you can't comparing apples and oranges. I think the program is great. I think it's essential for the ELP students. It would be like disbanding our resource classes, like saying that they can't have time for resource, because that gives them a different opportunity. I think I'm just going to leave it at that.
Suzanne.
Paula wants to talk to you.
I'm Suzanne Matheson. I've been hired this year on a contract to identify the ELP students. And I had that position for the last 4 years. Prior to that, I was retired for 2, and then prior to that, for about 15 years, I was the gate coordinator here at Willits Unified, and then for about 13 years had the 3rd grade cluster classroom. Lots of the information that John gave you today is absolutely false. I wish I had seen the information. I can clarify a few things now. And then I would like to be invited back for a prepared time, because I'm really speaking off the cuff now. One, about the Ravens. The screening is wonderful because every single student is screened. The way we used to identify students and the way many other districts do them, students are simply a teacher or a parent can say this child can have an IQ test. The wonderful thing about the Raven screening is that it is nonverbal. It is terribly difficult, and contrary to what John said, because I did a lot of research about it when I took this position 4 years ago as the screener. I hadn't had it before, and I did research. Can you teach yourself? Can you be prepped? It is so challenging. A student cannot be prepped. Then, and I take the students 10 at a time, They can have as long as they want. But what this, to take the screening, I can come the next time and show you page 1 if you'd like to see it. I make a point of not knowing any of the answers because I'm with the students, and as you know, there can be involuntary communication. I don't know the answers. The kids' work, it is very compelling. I would invite you to come next year when we do it, to be in the back of the room and to see all students, anxious students, second language learners, kids from all, they have designed a very compelling instrument. And these kids are just thinking, figuring out how to do it. They give tremendous effort. However, that is not the only way we screen. You could be sick that day, or the 3 days. Some students, it's untimed, and I know Anne can speak to this as well, if she wants to. I don't want to put her on the spot. But I've had students take 3 days to come back day after day. I've had students, actually, it was a month apart before I could come back. Came back, gave tremendous effort. Sometimes they scored 99%, sometimes they didn't. But it is a very compelling instrument. Then, that's not the only way we identify. Then, in second grade, after the students take the screening, I go to each second grade teacher saying, here are the 1 or 2, or sometimes 3 students in your class who scored 99%. You may have other gifted students in your class. Here is this form that lists all the attributes of gifted students. And then the teacher has to, and this does put a burden on the teacher. I've offered to come and help them with it. Teachers have been marvelous in saying, yes, I see this other student. And then with evidence about how creative they are, how they think outside of the box. There's this advocacy way as well. And it doesn't end in second grade. John is absolutely incorrect in saying it ends. All the way through middle school, teachers or parents can advocate for their students. And then there's a meeting with myself and the principal and another gate teacher. And we are a committee that then decides whether this is a child that shows the attributes of a gifted student, and that student is placed. And some years, 4 to 5 or 6 more students are added to the list through this advocacy program. So the Ravens is not the be-all and end-all. And as this program goes forward, there may be, I'm glad to look at this next year, if there's an instrument that we think is even better. I'm so nervous. This is so very important, because gifted students are highly at risk. And if we don't meet their needs, they don't perform. They act out in class. They're afraid. You're so bright, they're afraid. I don't want to show how bright I am. I don't think I'm intelligent. Often they're defiant. They won't pick up a pencil. They need to have a teacher who both knows that they are gifted, and they need to have someone who knows how to help bring the best out of them. Clustering is very important for this group of students, because often gifted kids don't want to take risks. They don't want to appear smart. It's not cool, and they underachieve. That's why clustering with a trained teacher is a marvelous model and the correct model. We are so fortunate that 40 years ago, or 38 years ago, I was trying to remember back in time, that the school board decided to cluster. We were way ahead of our times, way ahead of our times. So that 15 or 20 years ago, 15 years ago, when the Board of Education, the State Board of Education said, students are gifted all day long, not just on Saturdays or for the hour they're pulled out, which is how most districts, unlike Willits Unified, that's how most districts were serving gifted students. So Willits needs to be proud that we had the proper model. We need to continue to make sure that we have highly trained teachers. We want to continue to make sure that the teachers who have them do not in any way, and I just have to look right at you, John, as a teacher of gifted students, I made so certain that there was no sense that we're better, that we're smarter, that we're cooler. We're all unique individuals. And I really want a chance to come back. there is so much more that I want to tell you if in fact you are considering changing this important program. It's been starved. We need now instead to put more money into it so that we can have more trained teachers. We had marvelous teachers who retired. We need to now train the teachers who are willing and want to come up. It is not just the parents of gifted kids who are here. And the last thing I want to say about the Ravens is that once we switched to that way of identifying, prior to that, most of the students were the children of professionals. And that wasn't right. And the thing I'm proudest of that I've done for this community, I feel, and this educational community, was spending several years researching and changing the way we identified to this screening where every child got a chance. And then the population changed. We identified homeless students. The number of second language learners changed. Higher percentage of second language learners. Children who were living in poverty. So this is an excellent way. We are finding them. We need to improve on this program. So thank you, John, for making that part of it. And I look forward, as do the parents and teachers who are working to help us all continue on to make this program even better. Thank you.
Thank you for all your work on this. This was just an information item. There's anyone else like to speak? Yes. Sure, go ahead. And Paul, did somebody tell me your hand was up?
Yeah, Lucy.
Okay.
So I'm Melissa Coughlin. I'm a parent of 3 students in our school district. 2 of my children have been identified as ELP students, but I am also an alumni of Willis Unified, and I am also an alumni of the ELP program from a long time ago.
Could you give us your year of graduation?
I graduated in 1996, and I was identified as a 2nd grade student at Brookside. Gloucester didn't happen then. So I wanted to say that it was, when I was identified as an ELP student, it was that teachers noticed you in the classroom. Okay, so something about this child needs to be checked out because they're showing a deeper thinking. But I did not fit the bill for that period of time. So like Suzanne just said, kids were children of professionals in our community. I was not. I was poor, single parent. My father was incarcerated most of the time. It was a little emotional because it was a tough time. So it became critical that I wasn't placed in a classroom where education was pushed for me, because I could have easily picked something very different. You know, if I wasn't inspired to be a learner, if I wasn't inspired to think deeper, I'm not sure that my life would have turned out the way that it did. So I just wanted to bring that to light, that it is important to be not elite. It's not elite. It's seeing that you are ready for more. You're ready to grab on. And if you're not given that opportunity, it can turn out very different. And we see it all the time. It happens all the time. Kids get lost, they're bored, they're not engaged. So for a student who, I'm not sure it would have been identified if somebody wouldn't have said something. But having a nonverbal screening where it doesn't matter what your socioeconomic background is, it doesn't matter what you're wearing, what you're critical to catching all of those kids. And they need support. It's ridiculous to think that it's not important or not valued, that you have more or you want more. It doesn't make you better, it just makes you a different learner, a different thinker. And that has to be addressed. In light of so many negative things that are said about our schools and our school district, this is positive. This is a positive program. This is positive for attracting people from other areas. I know people don't always want to move here because they review our schools at first, but this could be an opportunity to say, well, they have a good ELP program. My kid may fit into that. Let's check it out. So I just don't understand the idea of not having taken away something that is positive and has a positive experience for children. And I know my own kids have really enjoyed building relationships with the other kids in the classroom and working on projects with each other, and they have different conversations that are sometimes, I mean, even I'm like, impressive. I don't even know what you're talking about, actually. So it is important to be with other students who can enrich and deepen and value. Education is a value. So I'm standing here as a former student and as a parent saying the notion of getting rid of something positive just seems ludicrous. Crazy. So thank you very much.
Paul wants to speak.
I'm just sort of thinking, excuse me, I've got meds, they're coming due at 8 o'clock. I understand, I mean, to me, it just sort of looks like things are getting kind of misunderstood. I sort of remember that survey and the things that went with it, and I don't think anybody has intended to erase a program. What I believe is that maybe it needs to be a little broader or a little more spread out. The RTI is a good idea, and it doesn't require necessarily a pull-out teacher. As a parent, my girls got some, you know, they did the testing and the whole routine, but I have a real bias to putting students in a large cluster all by themselves with others who believe that they can bounce off of one another, and the rest of the classes they don't need to bounce off of. And that could have been a misperception. But the problem is the misperception often is the perception, whether it's a good one or not. If it's your perception, that's exactly what you're thinking. And it took my youngest until she got to college to realize she was as smart as all of her friends who were in the other class, you know. And it worked out fine, except that I think what is best is if it is clusters, and Miss May talked about little clusters in classrooms. That's exactly the plan, I would think. You just need all teachers trained in that, as opposed to, we only have one room, and even though the population should be 1%, it's 10, you know, and we have 20 kids in there that match that plan, and the rest of you, and I really do think it's good. I mean, it's true, we're all gonna live together, you know, we need to all put it together from the time that we are little. And that's, I just didn't like it misunderstood sounding. Okay.
Well, okay, anyone else? This was information, yes, one person, one more. Bill wants to speak for this.
I'm Nancy Runberg, and I'm going to speak as a parent, if I may.
Okay.
And I have sons who were identified as ELP learners. My second son was, well, I'll talk about my first one first because he did the former testing where they were picked, and where it was either a teacher recommendation or a parent recommendation in the whole screening, and it was very different. And when he was in class, I did, as a normal teacher, as somebody said earlier, I was one of the normal teachers. I wanted my son in the regular class for 3rd grade. And when he finished his work, because he finished quick, he got more. And sometimes his packet meant he got an extra packet. And he would often say, oh my gosh, and we were with him doing those sometimes really late, and I said to Mrs. Matheson, because she was another teacher there, I said, oh my gosh, what do I do? And she said, it's not more, it's different. And for my older son in particular, he was the one that was frustrated sometimes with school because of that. The second year, I did go ahead and put him with the ELP teacher, and then he thrived. And he's had we pushed him, maybe because it's his parents too. Well, my second son had both. He had the screening by the psychologist, and then he also had the Ravens. But he then had new friends, new kids who probably wouldn't have been screened, the Latino kids that you're talking about. And so I would also add, it does capture more students. What I would like to see at Gloucester, if I get to be there longer, is definitely a model that we used to have, where we had more than one teacher and the ELP teacher. We had
maybe 2 or 3, although that's not the parent half, right? Sorry. Back to the parent would be, you know, or even if that, I would advocate then to go back to having more than one ELP teacher. But I think that sometimes if we spread them out, it ends up being not addressing the needs of those students as well. We had great teachers, they just didn't know how to meet my ELP son's needs. When my second one did, I put him in the ELP class too.
Thank you. One more?
I'm not picking a side, but I am refuting everything that Nancy said.
Would you say would you state your name just because
Robert Chavez, parent and current principal at the high school. And I really enjoyed this conversation. I really like that it started from our union president. I think that was wonderful. So thank you so much. However, I normally will not talk at any of these unless I really feel I have something to add. And one of the things we've talked about are gifted and talented as it pertains to academics. And the truth of the matter is, gifted and talented goes across the board. We have gifted and talented athletes, we have gifted and talented artists, we have gifted and talented musicians. We have many different gifted and talented children out there that we are not serving. And however we serve our academic students, we also have to consider that little second grader out there that is exhibiting out on the playground this phenomenal kinesthetic, you know, he's out there whether he's playing soccer or baseball. I mean, you've seen them all. If you've ever seen any type of kid game, and they're heads and shoulders above everyone. And those kids need to be addressed, along with our musicians or our singers or our artists. We have gifted and talented in every one of those areas, and we really have to consider how do we serve those other kids that are gifted and talented in other intelligences, not just the academic world. So that's all I wanted to add.
Thank you, Mr. Chavez.
Can I make a quick comment?
Sure.
I think it would be a good idea, if, you know, to have somebody come back and give, I mean, if that's Suzanne, great, to give a presentation on what gifted and talented means. They did a great one at the ELP meeting, the parent meeting, talking about what does it mean for you as a parent to have a kid who's gifted and talented. Because the perception, like Paula talked about, that, well, you're one of the smart kids, it's not about being smart. It's about learning in a different way, and as a parent, I think it's good to learn how you have to interact with your kid. And I think it's important for the other parents to not feel like, well, my kid's not gonna get in the smart class. Because we have to change that perception. And if, you know, wherever we head with the ELP program, I think there can't be a perception that these are the smart kids, because it's not about intelligence level, it's about how they learn. So I think that would be a good presentation for us to have here, and you know, how we get that out to other parents, I don't necessarily know the best way for that, but it's, you know, I do think a lot of this is a perception problem. I mean, we need to have more teachers trained, because I pulled my son out of the ELP program for this year, and it's gone great. So sometimes clustering works, sometimes it doesn't. I don't know what the right answer necessarily is, and we'll make a committee to look at that. Great, but I do think a good start would be to have a presentation here on what gifted and talented really means, because I don't know that that's being addressed in what we're talking about right now.
Very good. I remember this debate 30 years ago when Suzanne was on the school board at the time when we made the clustering decision. I think I was on the other side or the minority side of that. If you look back in the minutes, I know that Suzanne and I had a lot of discussion back and forth, and with your mother too. But that was, I had jet black hair then. I've got gray hair now, and I'm beginning to see some of the you know, how it's actually played out over time. I was kind of surprised that it was a board decision 30 years ago. I mean, it seems like it ought to be coming from, you know, over in this table, rather than the board. I mean, the board might play a role in driving it. And I forget how whether the superintendent brought it to us as a policy issue, but we are taping this meeting. Our new superintendent is going to get to watch it and hear everything that's been said here, and I'd be very anxious to have him weigh in on this when he arrives. But I have one question, and that's probably for the principals here, and that is, we've had a policy in this district for many years, and it's probably so ingrained now that it'll never be changed, is to allow parents to pick or to request certain teachers for their children. I took advantage of it not too long ago when Genevieve was in 3rd grade. I requested Suzanne's classroom. But I'm told by others that that's not common. And I'm just wondering if that's still our practice.
I believe it is.
And the you know, I mean, what I heard was that maybe it doesn't work well with being placed in the gate cluster. It's just an observation, but I would like to see it come back, so because I think it is an important issue.
I think that this is not a policy per se.
Yeah.
However, because it is so tied to the community and obviously a very interesting topic, it's important that the board be informed of all sides of the discussion.
Right.
So that as you represent the district out in the community, you have the right information. So obviously John's request to bring this forward at a meeting as an information item, we felt was appropriate so that we could start that conversation. I think that if we do a presentation on what the definition of ELP is, or GATE, or gifted students, we should also give what's the current research on those classes, because we've been studying this now for over 30 years in this country. We should be able to have some solid information as to what the current theories are as to education.
I think there's a lot of data out there already.
There's a lot of
that
data.
supports a lot of going
Yes.
on. And I think it's imperative that you do have an informed board that realizes all our different kinds of needs of our children.
Yes.
And I think it's very imperative to have a discussion in the community that is feeling so strong in doing that. But I think it's even more imperative that we get it out and we support, I think, a program that we have just let go and neglected and let do its thing, and be because of retirement and everything else.
Mm-hmm.
So I think there's a lot of pieces, and it's a lot more complex than simply the haves and have-nots, which I can't follow that rationale at all, to be honest with you. And it really bothers me to hear that it's elite or whatever kind of statement with it, because there's a lot of myth busting, I think, that needs to be said about these children. And if you have the idea that they're sitting in their desk ready to learn and very cooperative, I think we're doing a disservice, and you're very well misinformed. And at the same time, I also think it's imperative, not every teacher wants to teach these type of children, and that you have to have the buy-in from the teachers, which has been a problem in our district before, of having teachers that are willing to go that extra mile and take on that extra level of education and all that is necessary. Because I personally don't feel it is, it's like every other sect that we talk about of something being special. So I'm back to we need to treat the 100% all our kids and get them accomplished. I can't help but wonder if it's assigning to the rooms, or if we're thinking there's a disparity of what children or something are being placed versus this cluster of, or these type of children. So I think it's really good that the discussion's out there. I think that's great. I think it'd be great to inform the community and the board of what the program is. And I think if you look around locally at any of the places and what they're offering, I think we're onto something if we have a strong program. So,
Well,
with all of our others.
I would like to see more equality amongst 100% of the students, 100% of the time. Because I personally experienced a teacher's husband say, well, we do have this professional courtesy, and that student was placed in a specific class, which I think is wrong. I pay my taxes just like the teacher. I think my 3 students are just as entitled to just as much as your students. I think maybe having clusters in a classroom is a little discriminatory to the other students. You're not allowing them to interact with these GATE kids to possibly improve them. I think
They're not
it's
physically removed or sat in an area that is, that you could walk in and say, oh my gosh, there's a cluster of kids. Yeah, I don't even think anybody's eye you can acknowledge, see that, you know?
And I don't know that the GATE kids are necessarily gonna
They even
pull
recognize
somebody
it
up any more than
themselves.
someone else. I think sometimes they're more of a troublemaker. I don't know.
Okay, well, I didn't
Yeah, I agree.
interrupt you when you were speaking, so thank you, Mrs. Carney.
I'm sorry, but I just wanted to make sure that it's, you know, that.
Well, you didn't let me finish.
Well, please do.
I think that a lot of students feel less. I think a lot of students feel less. And I think that you're creating an elitist all the ways through, so that we're all better than you when we get to be seniors as well as in 2nd grade.
And are you done or do you want?
Go ahead.
I think, that's what I was saying. I think it's a perception problem, not a program problem.
Excuse
This is
me?
not a who is smarter.
May I say something after you're done? Are you done? Carlos Velarde. I'm a senior here at the high school. I don't really want to talk as much because I did miss part of what you guys talked about, and I don't really know much about the EOP classes or all that. But I don't think that it's creating an elite system. And Ms. Brumberg, I kind of want to use Price, one of her sons, as an example. He's like a really smart guy. He's like outgoing, and like she said, she's in an OP class, but he's probably like one of the nicest people I met. Like, he's constantly trying to help others that are not at his level, or I don't want to say at his level, but like just don't learn the same as him. You get what I'm saying? He doesn't see them as less. He sees himself as capable to help. And I don't think that you guys should be fighting over like getting rid of the system or keeping the system. I think you guys should be discussing how to improve it. Like, you guys are just like going back and forth, and it's like, no, don't do that. Like, you guys need to work on, if there's a system that has a chance of helping like those kids that may be smart, or not smarter, but like may need a different way of learning, you guys should pursue that, but not in a way to make those kids seem like they're bad for wanting to learn differently. Because I personally did not like do any EOP or stuff or that, but like I felt that my teachers, I'm not saying we have bad teachers, but I felt like they didn't reach me out very well. And if you check like my progress through high school, like 9th grade I did good, and then I just had this drop because I didn't have that like help, or I guess I wasn't like really told about it or really reached out, and like I had to go out on my own, and like I went on my own and like I read books and I did all this stuff, and like I found that like I really like environmental stuff, I really like social sciences, like I really like all this stuff, and like it makes me think right now, like, here you guys, well, I probably could have learned so much more or become so much of a better person if I was in like one of those groups, if like I had known about it. So like I don't know, like when like right now I feel like I would have been so much better in high school if I had one of those groups, because now I'm taking classes at the college here and I care more about those classes than I care about the high school, and I don't think that should be the mindset of students. And I think it's really important for the middle school students to have that, because I'm seeing all these, as I get in a higher, like now that I'm a senior, I see all these freshmen and sophomores, and I'm not saying all, but a lot of them don't have this urge to learn. I hear more of them talking about how they want to ditch or like school sucks than, oh my god, I'm learning a new topic. And like, I don't really want to talk too much, guys, because I don't know what you guys thought before I came here. But I do agree with Ms. Mattson. I had her as a 3rd grade teacher and I thought she was great, but I agree that you guys should have another meeting and like talk more about the program and like kind of like not just get a view from the teachers, parents, or you guys, like get some students in here. Like, where's the students talking about EOP? Where's the students talking that they don't like about EOP? All I hear is the parents saying that they don't like it. Well, what about the students? Like, you guys should try to bring some students to see their view, because we're the ones being affected by your decisions, not you guys. Like, we're the ones learning. Like, well, I guess you guys are learning too, but you guys. But yeah, I think that would be an interesting thing for you guys to keep talking. And if I had time, like I might like want to come too and talk. There's a lot I want to talk about.
You're always welcome. Sure, I'd just like to say somehow our system did well by this young man.
Just a couple. One is I can appreciate some of the comments that John made with respect to there are people that are always going to try and game the system, and I understand that. I would argue that parents that argue too forcefully on behalf of their children to get them into an extended learning program when they shouldn't be there are setting their children up for failure. It's definitely, it puts way too much stress on them in the first place. And though they may be right, but they may be wrong. And quite frankly, those of you in this community, this education community, should be the strongest advocates for those kids that are going to get through those programs, and the strongest advocates to try and convince those parents that their children may or may not be ideal for those programs. I also understand and agree with you, John, that if you are you're a kid, you're told you're gifted, one, there's pressure and stress on the kid, but for the kid that's told you're not, that can also be a difficult thing as well. And I don't know what the answer is for that, but when we talk about things like this model as opposed to the cluster model, you say this other program's been in play here for roughly 30 years. I would argue that if it's been in play here for 30 years and it's been working for us, if it's not broke, don't fix it. However, that doesn't mean it can't be improved. And I can see that there's some interesting things about this model that just off the surface tell me that there's some interesting things that might be utilized to improve the program that we currently have in play. That's not to say that this isn't maybe even a far better program. Maybe it does need to get looked at, but certainly not ready to throw the baby out with the bathwater. I'm a very strong supporter of looking at any new programs that are out there that might improve or even replace what we currently got in place, as long as we do our due diligence and make sure that we are not making a rash decision.
Okay.
You want me to do the last one?
Yes, you are the last one.
I teach the ELP program for the 5th grade at Blosser Lane Elementary, and we are revisiting how we're going to cluster the kids at our school. In fact, I ordered 3 books. Like you said, there's a lot of information new on how we cluster the kids. And every year, the prior grade has a say on how the kids are put into different classes, besides the ELP kids. The ELP kids are all tracked into one class. So we're looking at different ways that we can possibly split the cluster and balance it out a little bit more at our school. And when we're talking about equality in education, it has to do with equality of the training of your teachers and the experience that they have. Last year I taught under Molly Snyder, who was my 2nd grade teacher when I went to school here, a phenomenal teacher. And the way that she was also grade level chair, which is what I am this year. And what she did was she shared all of her techniques, all of her information, her curriculum. She was very open with our grade level, and that helped for the newer teachers that were coming into the school. And so that's the approach that I've taken this year with our teachers. And I feel like that's the best way to provide a balanced, equal education for the kids, is to have positive educators who are motivated and who are inspired to step in and to introduce children to sociology, psychology, history, acting, dance, everything in the same classroom, so that you don't have one teacher who is doing all those things that everybody wants to put their student in their classroom. That's my percent.
Okay, we'll move on. The next item is the Walk and Bike Mendocino program presentation. We have a handout material here.
Evening. My name is Neil Davis. I'm the director of Walk and Bike Mendocino, and I just wanted to come and let you know that as of February 29th, we signed a contract with the Mendocino Council of Governments to provide safe routes to school projects in programs in 7 communities throughout the county. Willits is one of those communities, and specifically the original grant that provided the funding specified Blosser and Willits High as the 2 schools that they wanted us to work with. The 7 communities that we're working with include Fort Bragg, Ukiah, Willits, Laytonville, Covelo, Anderson Valley, and Potter Valley. And the funding comes from the Active Transportation Program, which is an amalgam of a number of different projects now. So there's both federal and state funding that's providing this money. It's given us enough money to do these programs for like the next 3 years. We've started immediately. We've started already contacting the schools, and we're trying to get in as quickly as we can. It's a kind of a difficult thing because we signed in February, and the schools seem to be a little bit busy with some of the things that they do from day to day. So we're just trying to get in the ways that we can in this first spring. In a way that won't to negatively impact the teachers and the students who already have so much going on. We're hoping that over the summer we can start working with some of the summer programs and make plans for the fall that we can come in and do more work. The goals of the program, well, I guess I should take a step back and say we're partnering with both Mendocino Council of Governments that's doing a piece of the work and the Public Health Department that's doing a piece of the work. Walk and Bike Mendocino is subcontracting to this work, and we'll be the people who are doing most of the in-school, in-classroom, on-bicycle kind of work. Public Health is going to be doing there's a whole bunch of tentacles to this, all these different little projects that go on with it. And it includes some photo voice projects, and that's kind of what the Public Health Department's going to be doing. And it's going to also include some mapping projects, and that's more what the Mendocino Council of Governments is going to be doing more of that work. We'll be doing most of the stuff directly with kids and with parents and the community, because we understand that Safe Routes to School projects are safe routes to schools, not necessarily in the school, but around the school. And when we make things better for kids to get to and from school safely, we're actually making it better for everyone in the community to get around. So we have 3 years of funding, and we're looking forward to doing the work. And I think that's pretty much what my main goal in coming to talk to you is just to make sure that you know who we are and that we're doing this so that you don't have somebody, so you don't read about it in the paper or hear something, what are these people there in the schools doing that. So I really just wanted to kind of open the door, let me know that we're starting to doing work. We've been at Fort Bragg doing after-school programs already. We've been there 4 times. We've been in Anderson Valley helping with a walk-to-school kind of event. And May is Bike Month. We're hoping to really get into a lot of the schools and primarily we're looking at kind of after-school programs for this first time, because it seems like we can get in and help and be a resource to the schools without being tripping them up with the programs they've already got going in their busy schedules. So I think that's it. If you've got questions, I'm more than happy to answer.
Do you do a day that we try to have everyone walk to school?
Yeah,
do you do one of those?
Excellent. I probably should have said that. Our goal is to have essentially 4 events per community per year. We'll be looking at doing some sort of walk to school event, some sort of bike to school event, a traffic safety education event, which we're really looking at a 4 to 5 day. That's where we're hoping to get into the classrooms in the fall. We'll do 4 to 5 days. We do 2 days in the class, and then a day on the blacktop, and then a day actually taking kids out on bikes on the streets. We've piloted these projects and had good success at UKO School down in Ukiah, where we've actually on the 4th or 5th day of the class taken the kids out, in a very supervised way, but actually taking the kids out on the streets. So it's a bike to school event, a walk to school event, some sort of traffic safety education that we hope will be a 4 to 5 day kind of thing that we can do. We're 4 to 5 day thing, and then some sort of community event where we do more outreach, hopefully to parents and the community members, to talk about how people can walk and ride their bikes instead of driving their cars. We'll be in Willits at the Healthy Family Fair on May 22nd doing a skills kind of thing on bikes there. We've got a fleet of 15 bicycles that can be adjusted to different sizes. So somebody from my size to a 10-year-old, 8-year-old size to our 6'4" field coordinator, he can actually ride one of those bikes. And so they're very convenient bikes there. So that's our goal, is to do 4 different events in each of the communities each of the years.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Looks like a good program.
We're happy to be here.
Yeah, that's great.
Thank you.
All right, the next item is bus surplus update. That's
Mr. McGinty, Director
it's
McGinty?
Mr. McGinty here. I haven't seen him.
Is he here? There he is, he's in the back.
Oh.
He starts his day real early. And I think we have a PowerPoint, Will, if you want to sit on my
Well,
side.
we're gonna
of the
hope.
table. We may not, but we might.
We're gonna hope.
We can see it. He always puts good photos.
Good afternoon, everyone. Let me get organized here. So, recently, one of our board meetings, the board reversed its approval to purchase a couple buses that might have been delivered. We also recommended the surplusing of some buses that would have been no longer needed. That didn't happen, but the board did approve the surplusing of 2 buses. That is, well, it's a smaller
See
version,
if we
but
can get a bigger.
that is our fleet. The surplusing of those 2 buses are really going to help us out in that we'll have fewer buses to maintain and perform the 45-day inspections on, so we really appreciate those. However, we would like to request that the board approve at least 1 more. Can I go to the next one?
Sure, you bet.
This is our ideal number of buses, what we see. The 4 on the right you see with the 2 special education buses, that's our daily route runners. These are the buses that go out every day. The 3 on the left and the 1 on the bottom with the special education is the surplus. These are our spare buses, so they're more than covered. So by getting rid of 1 more bus would mean fewer buses to maintain. The other thing is the new diesel filters that we're getting for our buses are they're retrofits. And as we've done more investigation, we haven't received them yet, but when we do, talking with Air Quality, there's significant amount of maintenance and documentation that we're going to have to upkeep with these buses, because these filters didn't come with the buses. They're retrofits, like I said. The newer buses are more of a active filter, and we have 2 of those. And far less maintenance, and also the reporting requirements to the air quality district aren't as stringent. So what we'd like to hope, we understand the nature of the budgetary concerns, and of course the size of the expenditure. And so we realized that maybe 2 was probably too much. We would hope that we could recommend the additional 1 bus. Because it's not going to go away. The fleet is aging, and it may not be the power plant. It's certainly the coaches and the frames of these older buses are going to need attention at some point also. How about the next one? Can it please? Thank you. So just for a little contrast, I know this shows one of our older buses versus one of our newer buses. And just looking at the photo, you can tell there's significant safety differences between the two. While seat belts aren't mandatory for students to wear, they were required to be as part of the equipment of a bus. Some of the newer features also include the coaches have been significantly improved structurally, and aisle spaces and other safety features. So that's about it. That's all I have. I mean, I would hope that we recommend, hopefully, the surplusing of one more bus additionally, and the consideration of possibly one new bus. Is there any questions?
I have a few.
Okay.
When did the district become aware of the ability to retrofit buses with the exhaust
November.
systems? November. How many buses could be retrofitted?
5. Possibly 6.
Excuse me?
6 buses. These filters were put on 6 of our buses back in the day, and they were a grant program. Well, first because of their quality, the regulations, we apparently had to do something. This happened before my time. They elected to use these filters that consequently were the source of fires, and so they were banned by the state. So when they were banned from the states, our buses had the cores removed. It was mandated to remove these cores. And when the cores were removed, we had to go through a waiver program. So each year we would get a waiver for these buses.
And that affected 6 of our buses?
Correct.
Not including the 2 that we've already surplused?
Not including those. Not including those. And so the 2 that we're surplusing, they don't have the filters. And as we've called around the different districts discussing these older ones, a lot of the districts have had problems with these filters because the newer buses, the diesel filters are built for that engine. So it comes from the factory with it on. And as I say, they're more of an active filter, and so the maintenance is significantly less. The documentation to air quality board, that you don't have to do that anymore. So there's a lot of maintenance issues with the newer filters and technology. And also if you talk to the manufacturers, if you actually are concerned with air quality, they're better filters. So.
But all 6 of those buses, you were proposing that we were going to surplus, let's back up. We've already surplused the 2 buses, so we're only going to talk about the 6 that air quality could retrofit.
Correct.
Okay. Of those 6 buses, you were recommending that we still keep 3 and retrofit 3.
Correct.
Why would we not retrofit the other 3?
Well, we may have to. We will have to. If we keep these 3 buses, I have to complete this application to get the other 3 done. Because we can't not.
Why were we recommending those 3 be surplus?
Because it would save us, well, remember, we were hoping to get 2 buses.
I understand.
So with the 2 buses, that's why we would have recommended surplusing those 3. And it makes sense.
It makes sense to get rid of 3 buses that we could have repaired or for basically no money in exchange for purchasing 2 new buses at the cost of nearly $400,000.
Not necessarily, because those buses would have been kicked down to spare buses. Those 2 new buses, you saw our four daily main bus runners. Those would have been our new fleet, the main daily bus route, which significant safety features. The older buses, just because they're retrofitted with the core, doesn't necessarily mean they're bumped up to the main fleet.
But we still have to maintain those other buses, those other 3
Correct.
buses,
But we
regardless.
don't drive them daily.
Excuse me?
We don't drive them daily.
So
They're not our main runners.
So what is the lifespan of a bus?
Well, it's subjective, isn't it? It's gonna depend on the maintenance needs, the power plant, the age. We have buses that are older than others that are actually better conditioned than newer buses. So you can't just take a number, a year of the bus and say it's a better vehicle. It depends how it was used and.
So my question to you next is, why was this information withheld from the board?
Which information?
The fact that these buses all 6 of these buses could have been retrofitted. Instead, we were told, this board was told that these buses had to be surplus because in another year and a half, they would not be able to be run because of air quality management issues.
Because at the time, we just got this information in November that the air quality, that there was going to be a solution. Because
we just approved the bus purchase when?
I hope a couple board meetings ago, yeah.
Yeah, there was plenty of opportunity for the administration here to let us know that there was another option available to us.
If the filters was the primary concern, there's way more than just the filter to preserve in the bus.
But those arguments were never provided to us. The only thing we were provided with in support of spending $400,000 of the district's money was the suggestion that these buses were no longer going to be able to be run because of air quality management issues.
I don't recall making that argument because.
Excuse me, Alex, but we did present information quite some time ago in regards to all of the buses
Over a year ago.
That all of the buses would have to be retrofitted. So that
Right.
information was brought forward at some point long before.
We were told at that point in time that those buses would not be able to be retrofitted because there wasn't a solution in place.
And there may not have been at that time.
And there wasn't at that time, but when the solution did become available, we were not advised.
I wasn't aware the board wanted to know, when's the solution coming? That was never one of my criteria anyways.
If I may say, is the question, Mr. Bolds, that the board approved the purchase of 2 buses without knowing the other piece of information?
That's correct.
Because as long as I've been in this district, I have been told that this district must buy 2 new buses in this year. I've been told that by the lead mechanic, I've been told it by the other mechanic, I've been told it by the prior director of transportation. The day I arrived, they said, you better be ready, we're buying a bus in 2016.
And I understand that, and that's what I've understood for quite some time. What I really don't understand is why the board was not informed that all 6 of those buses could be retrofitted, that we could put off the purchase of these 2 new buses and save the district $400,000.
I think they're separate issues.
Excuse me?
Yeah. I mean, the diesel particular filter and the age of the bus are totally separate issues.
We have 3 buses that we're going to keep and utilize with this system and upgrade them. And we have 3 more buses that we're just going to throw out that we could upgrade with this system.
Well, no, because you're assuming that by putting a diesel filter, particulate filter is an upgrade to it. A lot of the districts I talk to, it has a negative impact. Some of these buses, I've talked to districts where they said that they actually blamed the filter for destroying the engine of one of their buses. These filters are an unknown because once they're installed, they work on back pressure. We have some engines that are older. It's the original technology of diesel filters. They've gone way beyond now. So we have the older, call it 1.0. Its first course started forest fires, so it was original technology. They've gone beyond that. The company was bankrupt, it got bought out, they have a new solution. But we still don't know how this is going to affect the actual power plants on these buses.
So you're advocating that rather than find out about whether or not these things are going to work, spend $400,000 and just throw them out?
No, I'm not advocating that at all. The reality is the state mandates that we have filters on our buses.
Correct.
We already got a grant for these filters. If this didn't come through, the state wasn't prepared to issue another waiver. We would have been looking at having to purchase on our own diesel particulate filters. We were fortunate that someone finally bought the defunct company, came up with a solution, and we have a replacement. But they ate up pretty much all of them 5 years. The other criteria is that if we do replace these filters, we're committed to keeping these buses for an additional 2 years. As I say, I was hoping to start getting rid of, phasing out some of the older buses, not keeping them for years longer.
The financial condition of the district, as I understand it, does not lend us to spending money on things that are not absolutely necessary.
Well, trust me, I mean, because I'm the director of maintenance as well, I would love to throw that money on facilities. I got a ton of places to put it on, but there's no other part, being on both sides of the departments, that is under the scrutiny that this department is.
I am less concerned about the bus purchase than I am about the fact that this administration did not provide us with the information so that we could make an informed decision as a board.
I don't believe that was the case, but
show me anywhere in the minutes or any presentation where you guys came to us and told us that there was a retrofit available for all 6 of those buses.
well, that's probably valid. I mean, as I said,
That is a key element as to whether or not we are going to approve the purchase of these new buses.
I still
We
disagree
made
with
the
that.
decision to purchase those new buses based on the idea that under air quality management rules, those buses would no longer be serviceable in a year and a half. It turns out that that is clearly not the case.
Well, I hope that I made a convincing argument that irregardless of the filters on the motor,
If that was the case, Mr. McEntee, we would be throwing out all 6 of those buses, but that's not.
That's not how we do it, no. I mean, I'm hoping I made the case that due to the age of some of these buses, replacement was the best idea. Districts all around us got the same money that we did and have committed their monies to purchasing buses. It seems like it's a common thing that's happening around the county, so it made sense, given the age of our fleet, some of the ages, that was irregardless of the filter, that a new bus might be desirable.
The information I received from speaking to some of the districts around us contradicts what you're saying.
Well, I know Ukiah got 2 buses. I know some of the districts around us got new buses.
But the circumstances were very different.
Well, as I say, my suggestion to make acquire new buses wasn't based on a filter. It was based on the bus itself.
So Alex, we've canceled the order for the 2 buses. It's not an irreversible decision. This is an information item. We're not, just for the purpose of finding out where we are. It would probably be, what I'd be interested in hearing is what you'd like to see in terms of information if we revisit this issue.
Quite frankly, I'd like to see this investigated by our independent investigator. I'd like to find out who's responsible for not making sure that this information made it to the board. We were not provided with information that was germane to making that decision to purchase those new buses. Had we not, had Clarence Ryan not stepped up before the board and let us know that this retrofit was available to us, we would still be moving forward with spending $400,000 on buses that we don't need. I'm not convinced that that we need those buses, and that it just doesn't make sense to me that we would retrofit 3 of 6 buses that are approximately the same age, and not the other 3. It just does not make sense to me.
Well, you don't want to make up your mind before you get all the information.
Exactly.
So let's identify the information that you obviously you've spent some time talking to other districts, and so what information would you like to see when and if this matter is brought back with the recommendation to purchase either 1 or 2 buses?
I'm less concerned about the purchase of the buses. I'm really not in agreement with purchasing buses at all. I'm more concerned with why the information that we needed to make an informed decision did not make it to this board.
Well,
So I stepped into this somewhat late. I mean, I missed a lot of the earlier discussion on the buses, but I guess from where I brought it, I was never in the understanding that it was based solely on the retrofit was why we're buying new buses. I thought there were a lot of other factors, and that was part of it, that we didn't want to go through that with buses that were already older and that we already kind of wanted to replace. I mean, they That was
couldn't do
my
the whole
understanding
thing at
from
one
the.
time.
Right.
We couldn't possibly afford that because we haven't been able
Right.
to afford anything for many years of getting a bus.
And that we had at this point one-time money that we might not have in the future.
One-time money.
That we could put
It's
toward
such a
buses
large
now.
purchase that, I suppose that's why other districts do it, is it's such a large purchase. And as I said, I'd love to throw that one-time money on facilities. I have so many places they could go. The buses is my first choice, it's a need. Granted, 2 of them may be a bit much. And so short of even purchasing buses, we should at least have a plan. I mean, these buses, if we don't get 2 buses now, we don't get 1. We all kind of know our budgetary issues that we have. Money doesn't come that often. So if I see a chance to get a bus, I'm probably gonna want it and ask for it. And so I still recommend new buses. It may not be 2, it may be 1. And next year it may be another. But if we don't have a plan, say every 2 years, every 3 years, and commit to getting a bus, we're gonna be stuck with 1988 buses like we were before, which doesn't make sense. From my perspective, if safety is the primary concern, I look at other criteria, ease of maintenance, and other factors. It's gonna have to happen at some point.
I have no doubt. But once again, I find it difficult to make that decision if I don't have all the facts in front
Well,
of me.
if I get whatever questions you want, I'll do the research and find it for you.
So let's leave it at that. Certainly, if this does come back, we certainly, any board member can ask for specific
Absolutely.
information to help drive any policy decision. But as of now, there's not any decision before us to move forward
No,
with anything. It's just an
not at all.
information item.
So I want you to know that I too, Alex, was under the impression that it was solely based on the emissions. And I think that we had a long conversation about the emissions.
And I'll just close by just saying that my recollection is that this is sort of a evolving decision-making process. The budget last June put 2 buses in based on our expectation of receiving one-time money.
Right.
And apparently some information came available after we made that decision, and to varying degrees it did not get to the board. So it's those kinds of things can happen. Sometimes you have to adjust. But we're not going to take public comment on this because it's not an action item. Move on to report on unspent capital expenditures.
Chris, I disagree with you. I think that this rises to the level of misconduct on the part of some of our administration. And I think it needs to be investigated. We need to get to the bottom of it, figure out who's responsible for it, because this would have resulted in a serious problem for our district if we didn't happen to just by luck fall upon this information. None of us would have done this research to find out that our district knew about this back in November, and they did not provide this information to the board. And as far as I'm concerned, it definitely rises to the level of misconduct, and it should be dealt with.
Well, you can bring that forward as a motion if you want to in some appropriate way, but that's not this item right now. We're
No,
not-
absolutely not.
So you'd have to ask that be put on the agenda, but I mean, I don't see it as a misconduct issue. I just see it as a policy issue. And I think we keep our focus on policy, that will be much better served. So we'll move on to report on unspent capital expenditures, number E.
Thank you very much, Mr. President. There is a document in your agenda, and it's just a brief summary. The district just wanted to bring back to the table some of the conversations we had at the last board meeting so that you knew that what the work we're doing, both at the district level and working with the sites and all the departments to bring our budget into alignment and see what we can do to resolve the deficit spending piece. We have, if I may use the word, swept into the reserve account $200,000 that was originally allocated for textbooks. We had allocated textbooks through the LCAP. This was an additional $200,000 just to have it. So we've taken that thinking that we're feeling pretty good with what we already had in LCAP, so this was additional. So that's been swept. We've also swept with the purchase of 2 buses into that reserve account. And we've also swept $175,000 into the reserve that was reserved for paving at the high school. That project is going to be probably twice that number, if not more. So at this time, we don't really have the funding for it, so we're just gonna move that into the reserve.
But you're saying you've already moved it into reserve, so?
We have allocated it now to move into the reserve. So we won't crunch all those numbers into a final report until the end of April. We will do the third interim, and that will come to the board the first part of June, I would suspect. And you will get that along with the first read of the budget, the projected budget.
Well, I don't want to have another meeting like we had last meeting.
Mhm.
So I would like to see these funds in reserves, identified as being in reserves and not to be spent, before we have any more interim reports.
Okay.
I'm sorry, excuse me. That was done based on your directive in the last board meeting, so those budget transfers have already been done, and that has already been put into the reserve, and the reserve has increased from 605,000 at second interim to $1.377 million.
And what percentage is that?
That is 6.99%.
Okay. I didn't, all I asked for was a list of the items that we could put in reserves. I have no objection to them being in reserves, but so I'm a little surprised I thought it would take board action to amend the budget to remove these items from the budget and I understand that we had to have a resolution.
We have that in your packet
Right.
as well, and that will come to you in the May meeting.
Okay.
I wanted to, right now, it's swept into reserve on our paper only.
Okay.
Sacramento doesn't know it yet.
Okay.
MCOE knows it because we've shared it with them, and we're in constant conversation with them over this issue, the deficit spending piece. But it officially won't be in there until you take action on the on the budget. And those resolutions will come to you in May, and samples of those are in your packet, so you can review those. And at that time, we will make that notation, and you will take action on those.
Okay. So the money will be in one place, everybody can look at it, it'll be transparent, and then policy decisions can be made.
Absolutely.
Whether we buy buses, we have a higher reserve or a lower reserve, we have deficit spending, or we don't. But at least the information will be in one place for everybody to see.
Absolutely.
Okay.
And that was the intent after our conversation, was that it would be the hopes of this administration to hand off to the next administration a balanced budget. So that's what we're going for, that's what we're working towards. I want to, if I could, commend Tanya Michelle and the fiscal department, but also all of our site administrators and our department chairmen. They're all doing line-by-line budgets. We are identifying funds. At the beginning of the year, we put funds in certain accounts so that we make sure we can do businesses during the year. We're now in the third quarter, and we're almost to the end of that. I think we are at the end of the third, we're heading into the fourth. So we're starting to clean out some of those accounts. Obviously, if we've over allocated, we can now pull money back and bring that back into the general fund or into the appropriate accounts. So we're in the process of doing that. Some of the big highlights that we've noticed while we're doing this, kind of reflection, if you will, is that we've had a tremendous reduction in workers' comp claims during the year. And that's a huge help, because when an employee goes out on a workers' comp claim, you have to hire somebody to fill their position while you're still paying them. And so there's a lot of double expenses there. We have not had a lot of workers' comp claims this year. We've released a lot of encumbered dollars back into the budget, and our site administrators are working very hard to reconcile the accounts at their own sites along with fiscal services. So we're working very diligently on this, and the intent in May is that we will come back with this resolution. And that will have, I'm going to double check, it will have a projection out 3 years, an increase in the budget in the reserve on that resolution.
There's a document that's missing from this. The resolution for 15-16 will be a single year document. When the budget comes to you, it will be a multi-year document. So there's actually a page that's missing from that.
I have a vocabulary question. What's coming to us in May is the third interim?
No, sir.
No. Third interim is when?
Third interim will be in the beginning of June.
And last month, we had the second interim.
Mm-hmm.
Although in some places it referred to as the first interim on the agenda, I believe, or.
It should have all been referred to as second.
So that was the second interim.
That was the second
Third interim doesn't happen until June?
Well, the second interim period is all of our financials and the budget update through the month end of January. So there's the reporting periods. First interim is through October 31st. Second interim is through January 31st.
Right.
The third interim now that we need to do is through April 30th.
I see.
So, and then there's the month of May that you have time to process it, do what you need to do, and turn that information into the county. It's due to the county by June 1st. So, so you'll be receiving that. If by some miraculous way I would be able to get it done sooner. I don't think we have a board meeting scheduled at the end of May, so I wouldn't be able to bring it. It would have to happen.
First
it'll
meeting in
happen in
June.
first part of June.
Okay, all right. Well, I just wanted to get the terminology right in my mind. Okay, so anybody else? Okay, that was just an information item, so we'll move on to the WTA comments.
Thank you. Okay, let's see. I'm John Haschak, president of the WTA.
Glad to meet you.
Yeah. Anyway, just thinking about math a little bit, is that, and going back to this issue that WTA brought forth about the ELP program, if this Ravens is designating 1%, the 1% are the really gifted, those Mark Zuckerbergs or whatever, these kids who really think differently, and so I would assume Willits is kind of normal. And if we've got 100 kids normally in a class, in a grade level, that should be like one of these kids in per grade level. But when we start doing 12, 15, the problem that we're seeing with, especially with new teachers are coming on board and they're saying, what's going on in this district? Because those kids who are high achievers or motivated or have parental support or whatever it is are being sucked into that ELP class, even though they're not the 1%, they're the 2 through 15%. And so those kids are getting moved over into the ELP class, and the other classes are left with a lesser percent of, good, strong kids who might help the other kids achieve. And, when we're talking about negotiations and trying to attract new teachers, and these teachers are coming to Willits and they're making $37,000, and then they're saying, well, I'm getting stuck with these classes that aren't the ELP, and it becomes an issue, and they're all expressing dissatisfaction with that system. So that's why, one of the reasons it got brought forth. Okay, so I want to talk about this petition. I've been passing around these petitions. Anyone who's 18 or older who's registered to vote, and I hope all of you guys are 18 or older and registered. If you're 18 or older, I hope you're registered to vote. This petition is to extend the Prop 30 tax, which was taxing people who are making over $250,000 as an individual or $500 as a couple, and the Prop 30 tax, which was bringing in $1.5 million per year to the Willits school system. $1.5 million is coming into our school system each year because of that Prop 30, and it's going to expire next year. CTA and the coalition, the School Board Association, all those that are in part of the Ed Coalition, are putting forth this petition to get it on the ballot, and this is to provide 12 years of additional funding to carry over. It's to get rid of the sales tax, which was part of the Prop 30. There is a small 0.25% sales tax statewide. It gets rid of that, but the funding would just be taxing those people making over those amounts, $250,000 as an individual. And so it's imperative that we get this signed. So if there's anyone out there that I haven't hit up yet, I'm going to be walking around and we need you to sign it, because if we don't get it passed in November, it will be a $1.5 million hit to the district. Then we'll have other kinds of conversations, right? Okay, I appreciate Trustee Carney coming to and the superintendent coming to our Cesar Chavez play the other day. And it was very nice to be able to go to Brookside and do it. And then we had a presentation for the parents at night. And then the next day for all of Blosser Lane. So thank you for showing up and being there. We have negotiations, and tomorrow we have our 6th day of negotiations this year. You know, the other board meetings I've been hopeful and talking about this big deal we're creating was going to be a win-win for everyone, because we've got teacher fairs and everything coming up this week and into next week. And the superintendent and human rights director are going to go to these job fairs with a starting salary of 37 something. And it's not comparable to other districts around here. Ukiah, Laytonville, Fort Bragg, all are considerably higher. You guys saw that information. We didn't dispute that. Right. And it's going to be a hard sell to get people to just come to Willits. And you know, because we're not in it for the money, but it is a consideration when it's that much of a discrepancy with neighboring school districts. And so I don't know what to say about the negotiations that are going to happen tomorrow. I would like to be hopeful. I would like to think that we're going to get this big redoing of the salary schedule, but I'm not hopeful at this point. And I think there is a problem when I think the superintendent came with good intentions. I think the board has been, from what I understand, behind this deal. And when we get information from the county office that it was going to cost 16%, and our numbers were nowhere near that, there's a problem with how things are being calculated or whatever. And I think we really need to sit down and figure out where the discrepancy between our point of view and what our numbers are showing, and how the county can come up with something way off. So you know, I don't know how that's going to proceed. I don't know where to go from here with the negotiations, but I hope that for the district's sake, for our students' sake, that we're able to do something that can attract and retain the best quality teachers for this district. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, do we have a representative from CSEA?
Good evening, everyone. My name is Danae Moran. I'm representing CSEA tonight. And I want to just touch a little bit because CSEA also has concerns about obtaining and getting qualified staff as far as classified employees. Although we have many hardworking employees in our district that are classified, we still need to have a comparable salary schedule to fit in this area. I mean, lucky that we did get that $10 an hour increase to the state, but still, you know, we're asking a lot. You know, I'm sure I just talked to an employee today telling me how many times she was hit in the face, that her hair was pulled. Not that that's normal for all students behaving that way, because it was a student who behaved this way to a certain employee. You know, so when you're talking about $10, $11, is that really enough when they can go fry a hamburger at McDonald's and make that comparable wage and not get probably hit in the face and their hair pulled on a daily basis? So another thing is I'm hopeful and happy that we're going to have a new superintendent and maybe possibly help in bringing and boosting the morale that's pretty low in some areas throughout this district. Thank you. Have a good night.
Thanks, Danae.
Okay, administrator comments? Do we have anyone here from Becker Grove?
Robert Lee.
All right, so
So I'm Maria de los Angeles Munguian, I'm the principal of Becker Grove Middle School. And Becker Grove teachers would like to thank Jennifer Maples for all of her help with our benchmarks and putting them in a new grade, et cetera, et cetera. Yeah, she does a great job of helping us with our tech stuff. We also wanted, the entire staff would like to thank Suzanne Matheson. She brought our staff up to date on ELP students and their identification and the et cetera. And we're, she has personally said that she will work with any of our staff in implementing the icons of depth and complexity, which is good for all kids and not just the ELP kids. So we want to thank her for that. Okay, so I have things for kids, parents, and staff. Our students are beginning a mural club led by Dr. Richley and a parent volunteer, Emily Matheson. They are going to update some of the, not the existing murals, but have some murals that they'll paint on our walls so that we can look a little more updated. And we're excited about that. Softball has begun, and track and soccer. So we have all those sports going right now. Also, the after-school drama class has begun as well. Ms. Provost will be teaching interested students, some drama after school. Acting type of drama. So they're excited to begin that. Okay, our students have completed their AVID applications, and I'm happy to report that we have received plenty of AVID applications for all 3 of our grade levels, 6th, 7th, and 8th for next year. And the AVID class will be visiting UC Davis on the 29th of this month. And our parent workshops, of which we have had 3, and our 4th one is coming up tomorrow. Our 4th one is coming up tomorrow. Tanya Ramming is talking to our parents about college and how to get there and et cetera. So that's our parent workshops. The reason I'm telling you that is because they have been attended by at least half of our AVID parents. So we've had good turnouts for those. Okay. Our 8th grade parent group is busy fundraising for our 8th grader promotion activities. I'd like to invite you all, and I would be happy if anybody would come to our open house on April 20th, beginning at 5 o'clock for incoming 6th grade, a panel of students talking to incoming 6th grade. Anyone who's interested that hasn't been to Becker before.
What day is that, Maria?
That's Wednesday, April 20th. And then at 6 p.m. our classrooms will open up for any class visitations. Okay. We also have a book fair all week next week at Bechtel, so come and look at our book fair. I would also like to invite you to any of the activities that we have the week of April 25th through the 29th. No, April 25th through the 28th. Sorry, it's 4 days. We have a College and Careers Week. Students will do presentations about careers that they have researched. They'll also do presentations about different colleges and what it takes to get there, etc. We have noontime activities, and on Thursday in the afternoon we have community members who come in and are experts in their career, in their fields, and they come to talk to our students about their career, what it takes to get there, what their story is in accomplishing their career. So, and that is our community people who come in and do that for our students. Okay, so that's on the afternoon of the 28th. Okay, Thursday. All right.
So our staff is involved in lesson study. If you remember, we're working with WUSD for coaching, etc. And our next step in that is lesson study, and lesson study is an involved process, but they are basically studying particular lessons so that they can use model lessons in teaching whatever skill it is or whatever learning it is that the students, they want their students to have. If you remember, we had parents, and we've talked about our math program, and one of the things that they had wanted was for us to do a comprehensive exam, and we have completed the comprehensive assessments and are about ready to give information back to our parents about the comprehensive assessments. Okay, we are continuing with restorative practices. Our topic for April is integrity for our restorative practice circles in any of the classes that, any of the teachers who do circles in their classes. 8th grade, in the 4th quarter at Bechtel, we try to have all of our 8th graders take a college and career exploratory. 3 of our teachers are teaching college and career exploratories, and all of those students will be going to visit Sonoma State University on Sunday, the 20th, as well. Okay, and of course in May we'll be testing forever, doing CAST testing, and that's it. Any questions?
Ann? For Brookside?
I'll go quickly since I already took up a good part of the beginning.
No, I appreciate that.
Alrighty. I want to thank John for setting up Blosser Lane and the Cesar Chavez assembly for them to come over to our site. Kids were very excited. It was so neat to see students who just left or have been gone a couple of years. It was wonderful. So thank you for doing that. I hope that will continue next year as well. Let's see. We have many events coming up next week and then May. It's going to be quite amazing. This week we have Gary Martin coming on Friday, and he'll be talking about a different topic in art. And next week, on Tuesday, we have the children's librarian coming on Tuesday to talk to all of our students about what the library has to offer, how you get a library card, things like that, on the summer programs. Thursday is open house, and at 5:15 we have the RASPA, which is all the kindergartners out on Thursday the 21st, sorry. Thursday the 21st, the kindergartners all do La Raspa. It's a dance out on the blacktop, and that starts at 5:15, and then actual open house is 5:30 to 6:30. And the 8th graders from Bethel Grove will be serving dinner, fundraising for their class, and making it so families don't have to try and race out and get dinner too. April 28th and 29th, we have kindergarten registration at Brookside, and thanks to Jennifer Maples, it will be online this year, so it's very exciting. And we're working also on how we're going to get everybody, all the other parents, get their parent portals going. Let's see. Kindergarten teachers and I will be going to Head Start and Imagination Station to make presentations about our TK programs. And May 6th, 9th, and 10th, we will be having restorative practice training at our school. Each grade level will get a day, and instructional assistants will also be participating in the training. I just want to say thank you to everybody from Brookside. You can tell it's a fabulous community of students, teachers, parents. I feel very lucky to be a part of that school. So, thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Ann.
Blosser Lane?
So I'm Nancy Renberg, and we were fortunate to have the Cesar Chavez presentations. Mr. Hatchak took the road on the show, the show on the road, which is really great. And we had the Rotary Club gave our 3rd graders these beautiful dictionaries this past month, and that was just a gift to the students. It was, I have to say one quick thing about it, it was so cute because little boys were getting ready to leave at the end of the day. Said, Dad, look at this book I got. Wait till he gets home when he starts reading it and finds out, right? So he was so excited to have this beautiful dictionary that the third graders got. We have an after-school drama club for the fifth graders, and they are really into drama. Take that however you want.
Getting ready for middle school, they are.
That's great.
Yeah, well, they're getting it. They get started in fifth grade. Let me tell you. And we also have for after school, our third graders are doing Odyssey of the Mind, and that just recently started. This week is our book fair. We had our fourth installment of the Daily 5 and Cafe service where Brookside teachers come over and share what they're doing with Daily 5 and Cafe. And this way, the beauty in that is that we have the students working on this K2, and then it'll continue 3rd through 5th grade. So Miss Julie is, she's just great at this. She loves it, she's passionate about it, and it's really going well. We are going to also be testing Forever in May, and we've been getting the students ready forever. Every Tuesday we have the students start to practice, and you would think, okay, get on, go ahead, start to do it yourselves, and they still go, what button, we did this last week. But anyway, they will be ready by the time they get going in May. We have open house. Our open house is next Tuesday, April 19th at 5:30. We have a number of booths, we'll call them, in front that you can see, and that will be PTO will have a ticket out, and we'll have a few things there too. We have some field trips that we've had this month or are coming up. Third graders went to Kemi's Pies, and yeah, they come back with a little box in these pies, and some teachers let them eat them while they're there. And I think the students think it's so great. Wait till I start, but they get about a third of the way, and they end up taking the rest home. So fourth grade went to Academy of Sciences. Fifth grade is going to go to Exploratorium at the end of the month. One of our fifth grade classes is going to the Space Theater this week in Ukiah. Fifth graders went to Bechtel Grove, and some of our fifth graders got there a little late, and they were running, they were so afraid, they were so nervous.
I don't think could you move on?
I'm sorry, I apologize. And
We've got
testing is happening, you're right. Can I tell you then about Sherwood?
Yes.
Okay. So Sherwood School is, they had their own K2 science fair. Each of Luna's students completed and presented individual projects. Luna would like the community to know that she, along with a team from the charters, the elementary charter and Willis charter, are working together for a science expo for kinder through 2nd grade. If you would like to be a part of the exciting offering to our community, please contact Luna or Aaron Picaro. Gina's class recently took an overnight trip to the Marin Headlands Nature Bridge program. This was a wonderful experience, and they're very thankful to the parent group for funding this. They wanted to also thank the East Hill Veterinary Clinic for their support for their students and Read Across America Day. And thank you to the maintenance department for the recent hard work for their site, including the play structure. Thank you.
Thanks, Nancy.
Wills High School?
Thank you.
I think
Robert?
that'll be done by Will. Are we ready for Will's? Oh, good.
Robert?
I think he's doing it for Will's High School.
Okay.
He's gonna, I thought he was gonna do it for.
If you go for it.
Do you have a video?
No.
Okay. Will is going to finish up because you have some details that we talked about earlier, correct?
Yeah.
Okay, good. So I'm going to try not to step on his. We will have testing next week because we have so much more testing at the high school in regards to AP. One thing that we're really excited about is we will be having a career fair, and we are working with our Chamber of Commerce Lisa Epstein is one of the members there, and MCOE in having this career fair. And that will be on May 18th. And we're hoping to have quite a few businesses there. We're very excited at 9 o'clock. We are also getting ready for all of our end of the year activities, and we're organizing that. We're putting our final calendar together for all of those, not just graduation, but you have all the other activities that go along with that, and so we'll get that to the board and make sure you're aware of that. Our open house, we just recently changed the date due to some of the conflicts to senior scholarship interviews was conflicting with our date, so we just moved our date to April 26th at 6 o'clock. And so those are the big picture items. We have a lot of sports things going on and other items. And Will, why don't you take it away?
I'm just gonna stick this here so you guys can see it.
That's precious. That's the refuge.
Thinking. You know what, while we're waiting, Will, why don't I do mine if you don't mind, Mr.
Sure.
President?
Go
So
ahead.
then we can dovetail. I don't go anywhere, because as soon as it comes up, I'm gonna shut my mouth.
Okay.
I promise you. I wanna thank the Brookside parents and students. What a wonderful job, Ann. Thank you so much. That was great. Summer projects are being planned by all the departments. All the school sites have activities. We have summer school going on at the high school and Bechtel Grove. And we've got summer projects that we're starting to build those calendars. So I wanna thank all the departments for putting that together. I'm happy to announce to the board that last month in the March meeting, we asked for 2 reductions in force due to our decrease in enrollment. That was in the certificated staffing side. We have now rescinded those in the sense that we have now offered those teachers positions back with the district because we have received some resignations or retirements and whatnot. So I just wanted to let you know that those teachers are very grateful and very thankful to be placed back at Willits District. Everybody seemed to have a safe and happy spring break, so that was good. The LCAP update to you, I have now visited all school site councils. We finished that box yesterday. I have now met with all bargaining units, executive councils, and the district has held 2 community forums on the LCAP for next year. We have 1 more community forum, and I believe it's next week. If not, it's the following. It's on my calendar somewhere. And then we will put all that together to come forward to the board. So the LCAP presentations are going very well. And I'm shutting my mouth. So take it away, Will. I'm done. Thank you very much.
All right, good evening, everybody. My name is Will Switzer, school board rep for Willits High School, and this is.
Tell me when to point it.
Good. So all the students you see up here have all completed 100 hours of community service, which is like blows my mind because that's a lot of hours to put in for community service, and yeah. So those are all the kids out of the city that completed that many hours, which is quite a few, I think. The next one. Cool. The concert / cupcake wars, I just kind of put them together on one page. But the last concert was on March 30th in our auditorium. And the next concert is the all-district concert, and it'll be at 6 p.m. on May 24th in the auditorium. And then Cupcake Wars, I don't really know a lot about that. I know Miss Barrett does that, and I'm pretty sure it's over at the community center. I'm not sure when the next one is. I don't think they exactly knew when it was going to be, but that was from the last Cupcake War.
Go.
Art Under 20 formal art exhibit. It's going to be open April 29th and through May 29th. I suggest you guys all go. It's really cool actually to go see all the different art pieces that the kids from our community put into it. It's pretty awesome. The peer counselors, they've been doing a lot of work the past few months. they're bringing in the upcoming 8th graders and doing kind of like just kind of getting them more comfortable with the feel of how everything works around here and stuff, not being so scared to come up into high school, because it actually is kind of a big change. On April 16th, they're doing a 4-hour training for their Peer Ed Summit, which is upcoming, which is on April 29th. And they have an educational mock party, which I remember doing, which was pretty fun. For the 9th graders, it's basically just kind of tips and tricks of how to like survive in a party scene if you don't really want to be doing bad things. So that's pretty cool. And then, yeah, okay. Oh, Ms. Herman's science class. These are my boys over here coming to talk about it. Let's go, guys. Yeah, they'll just take it away.
So I'm D'Artagnan Meek. So Ms. Herman's AP Environmental class, we entered 2 projects this year in the science fair. They were extremely successful, so they went to county. The first project was on the Valley Fire that took place in the Middletown area. So what we did was we compared all the different soils. We took compost soil, regular soil, and then soil from the wildfire that took place. We kind of analyzed the different growth rates of the plants, and we did a whole science project with the hypothesis and stuff on which one grow fastest.
Okay, we also did a second project. This was on local water quality tests. Well, first of all, I should introduce myself. I'm Riley Shea. I'm a junior in Ms. Herman's AP Environmental Science class. So we've been testing the creek water since 2010, not we as the class. We were testing the quality of the water to see if it was affected by the last 4 years of the drought. We did tests for dissolved oxygen, temperature, pH, turbidity, phosphorus, and nitrogen. And we found out that we were actually wrong, our hypothesis. And it was determined that the drought did not affect water quality. Great. Just talk about
Alright, well, Ms. Herman wants to also let you guys know that we will be continuing the water testing too next year in the next AP class, because, I mean, it's pretty obvious that it's something that we should be really concerned about with the drought and like agriculture pollution and all that. But we also came here to tell you guys that it was really fun doing this. Like, for the soil, like, even if we grew like simple things like peas, but to have something that like we made and that we took care of and that we controlled and that we saw grow, like that's awesome. Like I really think that these type of projects should be like something that all classes should do, not just science. Like even English classes should go to play events, like where they like play like acting, and like math places should go to math competitions like as a class, or go watch as a class, because these type of events they let kids be the ones that are in control. And personally, I think that's good, because we don't always like sitting throughout class listening to lectures. We like to have hands-on fun, and you learn a lot too. So just wanted to share my feelings about how important that is to me and a lot of students.
Yeah, also one thing that was interesting is it's very interesting and informative doing a science project on like local issues, issues in the community. Obviously the drought is affecting our community, so it's a lot more fun to do projects kind of on something that's related to us rather than a more broad issue.
Yeah, I was gonna add with the drought testing. I really liked how the data was from like 2010. It felt like we were part of like a legacy with the tests, and it felt like it was on a larger scale.
Thank you.
Thank you.
cool stuff this past month. Sierra Skinner and Elizabeth Roundtree received their state degrees at competition. Caitlin Forrester was elected to be the North Coast Region Mindow Lake VP, which is a pretty big deal. And there's just Mesa competition. I heard all these guys had a blast doing it. They wanted to be here, but they had some stuff going on too. But in the Mesa competition, they do a mass solo test, balsa wood bridge. They do an egg drop from like 5 stories high, something like that. It's pretty cool. They do a heart model. Mousetrap cars, supposed to go up like a 15-degree ramp. They do a balsa wood glider. And this is the first year their students have gotten this far in competition. And so now they're just, it's coming up on April 30th actually. And it's at UC Davis, and the pre-Mesa day was at Mindow College on the 19th of March. Varsity baseball, our overall is 1-5 and 0-3 in league. And then I just wrote, or I just didn't write, I got I asked each player on the teams and stuff questions like how their season was going, and then I just had them tell me how it was going. So basically Lucas said overall we were playing great together as a team. Performance-wise, we're not at the level that we're striving to get. The games that we have played have all been extremely close, losing by 1 to 2 points, which are mainly runs we give up because of our own mental mistakes. And Kyle just said that his season's going fantastic, mainly because it's his senior year and he loves hanging out with his friends. JV baseball, they're 1-1 right now overall, league and overall. I asked 2 guys and they kind of just like combined it on theirs on this one. Rylan Count and Austin Wilcott. Our team this year is becoming more and more of a tight unit since we have played together for years. The only thing we need to work on is getting our bats warmed up. Other than that, we should be unstoppable. This is softball. They're 1-3 in league right now, and I'm pretty sure they didn't have any preseason games. Sierra Skinner, my team, and I are having a pretty solid year. Haley Finley, overall we're doing fabulous. We have a few minor things to work on, but other than that, I think we'll be perfectly fine. And all those girls sound like they're having a great time out there. Tennis, their league is 4-2, and they have a home meet this Friday, and then next Tuesday, they start right around after school time over at our tennis courts. Wayne Waters, we have gotten off to an amazing start and have a good chance of winning league. And Kaylin Stone, this year has been one of my favorite years playing tennis. We got a great turnout of players. We're all looking forward in having the chance to compete for league. If we don't get it this year, we'll definitely get close, and we'll definitely get it next year. This is our track team. Will Smith, there's nothing like building your body up as well as your mental state of mind. Bailey Ferguson, track makes me feel happy, and I love getting out on the track/field on a nice warm sunny day and getting some exercise with my friends. This is swimming. Their next meet is this upcoming Thursday. It's a home meet. I call them the freshwater Wolverines just because, I was just kind of messing around with that. But I asked most of the team, this is kind of what they came up with. During practice, we work on beating our own times, perfecting dives, and how to motivate each other individually. At meets, we branch off alone to compete against others, or to compete against other competition, but are graded as a whole unit. This is our golf team. One sport that I wish I always played because it looks really fun. As a walker, this year I've been improving tremendously thanks to the great coaching staff and supportive team. At the same time, though, having a lot of fun. Shivam Patel, golf is great, man. The team is great. The coaches are great. We're all just great. So, Yeah, and a special thanks to Miss Bakewell, Miss Herman, and Miss Ramirez for helping me get the majority of this stuff together, and everybody else who has helped me pull together all the minor details for this presentation. That's it.
Thanks, Will.
Okay, we'll move on to board comments.
You want me to start? I'll start. You're going to be in a good mood tonight, Chris. And Hammond, yeah, they did great. It was really nice to see those kids from the years past. Gary Martin comes to Brookside School. He's absolutely hysterical. The kids, he does art, and it's hysterical. So if you have a free Friday.
What's the name?
Gary Martin, he does the art. He comes and he talks to the kids about genres and portraits and still life, and they all know, and he doesn't really have a second grade sense of humor, but he's quite funny anyways. The play structure at Sherwood School is absolutely beautiful, fabulous. I had the opportunity to be out there yesterday, and I'm stoked. Good job. Maintenance, I'm really glad. I was very surprised to see these notes here when I arrived. They're thank you notes from 3 of the students that I did senior interviews, and I started crying when I started reading them. What an absolute pleasure. An absolute pleasure was to do senior interviews. So that's all I have to say.
Okay. Yeah?
I have no comments.
No comments? I don't have any comments either. So we're now going to get to the action agenda, which is 3 hours into the meeting. I realize that that I made a mistake, but we should have had this public hearing at 5 o'clock on the public pupil textbook and instructional materials, the timed item.
As long as we have it after that, not before it, we're okay, I believe.
Okay. So, do we have any public comments on the consent agenda? Hearing none, do we have a motion on the consent agenda?
I'll make a motion.
I'll second.
I think you were not there for part of a meeting for the minutes, Chris.
March 16th.
So perhaps
Cynthia
we should
Cynthia wasn't here.
Amend that part.
pull those for whoever wasn't here. Sorry to be difficult, Chris.
I got Cynthia motion.
Should be
but
used
who
to
was
it.
second? I'm sorry. Thank you.
Okay, so which meeting were you not at?
They have to tell
March
me.
16th.
There you go.
Okay.
I went to all the other one.
So we'll
Correct.
pull that item up. All in favor of the consent agenda with the exception of the March 16th minutes, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Passes. How about the March 16th meeting?
I'll make a motion to approve.
I'll second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? So,
I'll abstain.
so we are now down to halfway to the page. But probably the most important thing this evening is special order of business. 1, approval of employment agreement for district superintendent. Are you going to introduce this item?
I certainly can. You've met him more than I have, so I believe it's Mark Westerberg.
Correct.
Will be placed as the superintendent for the Willits Unified School District effective July 1, 2016. And the contract is a 3-year contract, and that's what the approval will be. And he will be here at the May meeting, as I understand.
Correct. But he's going to be here the week of May 3rd through May
Through that Saturday.
8th. Yeah, so he'll be here 4 or 5 days and get a chance to get around to meet people. But the first item is the employment agreement. Do we have a motion?
I'll
on
make
that?
the motion.
I'll second.
All right. We have a motion second. Any public comment? John?
I've heard that the agreement is for, the salary is $155,000 a year.
Correct.
I was just wondering, what is the current superintendent's salary?
I believe it's 145.
About 145, and yes, that's it.
Correct.
So that's a $10,000 increase?
Yeah, it's based on an experience level. our current superintendent is a first-time superintendent. The superintendent we're hiring is got a substantial record as a superintendent.
So it's a 7% increase maybe
Right.
over what currently is being paid.
Right. Although the package is a little bit different, you have to compare the two contracts.
So the overall package, what would the increase be?
I don't know. The contract is available in the packet. Paula?
I just had one question, and this is the thing. It says in here that the superintendent will have the, oh, wrong sentence. Anyway, it talks about the here it is, and it says at the discretion of the board, they'll review the superintendent's performance annually, and its performance salary augmentation of not to exceed 3% of the contractual amount. Okay, so now, just because a couple of those words I don't understand, that means that the salary schedule that's already in place for years of experience, et cetera, for all of the administration and for the superintendent, that plus whatever is the improvement or the, whatever the, what is the word, performance augmentation, will not exceed 3%, the two put together, or there could be a 3% increase because it's just an outstanding year, and then another 2.5% because of the salary schedule, or does that kind of erase the salary?
We just have one item, one line item salary schedule.
The superintendent salary contract is a single contract. It is not tied to any administrator, any other administrator contract, teacher contract, or anything else. It is completely independent. So that's the
Right,
only.
it's its own little line.
Its own line.
And it increases with years of experience.
No, it does not. It starts over this
does it?
time. It
Oh,
starts
okay.
over this time. There is one cell on that salary schedule for $155,000, and that is it.
Okay, that's, it, I wasn't aware it looked like that now.
And it had a lot to do with how the contract was negotiated. And
I know, that's good, I didn't know.
So, any other public comment? All in favor? See, this should be a roll call vote. Lori?
No comment, Mike? Aye.
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 Okay. So we now have an approved contract. I think the second item is the formal appointment of the superintendent. And I would be happy to make that motion to appoint Mark Westerberg, our new district superintendent. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Any public comment?
Effective July 1st.
Effective July 1st. Yes.
Again, I'd like to thank the board for the process that you used in selecting the superintendent and not going through the headhunters, which saved us some money, and also by including the community and stakeholder groups.
Yeah, I'd be remiss if I didn't mention that Laura Sleeper did an exemplary job in this process. We had a number of candidates, and we received comments from the candidates who had applications out elsewhere that the coordination with Laura was as strong as it was anywhere, if not stronger. So we have a motion.
And a second.
And a second. Any other public comment? So, vote.
Aye.
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 All right.
If I may suggest, Mr. President, items D through I, again, are board policy first read, so you are just
Combine
accepting
those.
that. So if you could just combine all those into one, that might be
Any
helpful.
objection? None. Right, we have a motion.
I'll make it. I'll second it.
Okay, do we have any public comment on board policy? Any board comment?
I need to get the first and seconds again. so-
It was Georgiana
I made the
and
motion.
Cynthia.
Thank you. I thought we did.
Didn't we have
We
some
both spoke
board
at the same
policies
time.
that should be second reading?
No, sir, you asked for them to be re-edited for you, for clarification, and this is that same group. So they,
We're going back to the
we sort of
first.
kicked them back, and so now we've resubmitted, so next board meeting they'll
This was
be
the
And
different
they're all,
format.
says deleted, and what was added, and everything was all.
Yes, so we've,
Just
if
like
there's
we
any
asked.
question on how to follow that, let us know, we'll make whatever adjustments. Or we
Okay.
won't, which we won't.
We'll move to the vote. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Passes. So we're down to J, which is approval of summer education programs.
We have a highlight in your packet, and we are proposing summer programs, although they're still developing and evolving. We would still like approval to move forward with that so that we can allocate some funding for those programs. We are looking at special education extended sessions and summer school programs at Becker Grove Middle School and at the high school. And those principals, along with their staff, are working very hard to make sure those things, they'll be staffed. We have to advertise for staff and get those in place and then recruit students to go. So we're
I'll make
asking
a
for that
motion.
approval.
I'll second it.
Okay, any public comment? Okay, any board discussion? Okay, we'll vote. All in favor, say aye.
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 Any opposed? Next item is approval of educator effectiveness plan.
The state has provided the district with $139,000 to fund professional development for our certificated staff, not just certificated, but also classified staff. This training must be specific to the classroom. It will support student learning. And so we have 3 years to spend that money, so we have proposed, we cannot spend any of it until we have an approval by the board to move forward. So with the help of the curriculum committee, and we thank you, Ms. Munguia, for doing that, and input from teachers and classified staff, there was a survey done with our classified instructional aides to ask them what kind of training would you like to see in the future. And so we've developed an effectiveness plan to move forward with the expenditure of those dollars over the next few years. So that's what we're asking for approval of.
I'll make a motion.
I'll second.
Huh?
We are on a roll tonight.
Any public comment? Okay. Hearing none, any board comment? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Approval of job description.
That one has been pulled, sir.
Okay, that's right. Now we move on to our notice of public hearing, public textbook and instructional materials adoption for English, language arts, English, language development, Benchmark Education Company, copyright 2017. Here, how they copyright something next year. Benchmark Advanced Digital and Print Components.
So the public hearing will begin now at 7:31, and we'll need to leave it open for a few minutes and see if there's any comments.
Any comments? Ann?
I'll just put it out there, we're planning to have the materials at our open house, so parents can come in, and one of the people who, one of the teachers who selected, no?
No, that's good, I give you
Okay.
a thumbs
Oh,
up.
I'm looking at Trina.
There's 3 huge tables.
Yeah.
Yay.
So, one of the people who, one of the teachers who was part of the selection process will be there to explain.
An open house date again is when?
For us, it's the 21st, Thursday, and I believe Nancy's doing the same thing at Gloucester on Tuesday, having materials available so that parents can see them.
Okay.
We will send to all of the board members the dates of these upcoming events.
All right.
Yeah, we'll get to
Was
that.
that the
calendar
list
this
of the
week.
open houses?
Yes,
Okay.
and the open houses and the other events.
Okay, any other public comment? Hearing none, we'll close the public hearing. And is this an action item?
7:32. No, it will remain this way. At the end of 60 days, we will come back for a board approval of those items. And they are all on display in the district office. It's a K-5 adoption. So those textbooks are available in the district office for review. Thank you, sir.
How are you handling evolution?
I'll tell you that.
I thought you wanted to get out of here.
All right, I take it back.
ELA, it's not the other one.
Okay, we move on to item N, approval of Staywell participation, resolution number 2015.
This allows us to remain within the JPA, the Joint Powers Authority, for our medical benefits for our employees. I'm going to defer to Tanya and Michelle if there's any additional information that needs to be shared.
It's actually a commitment that we're participating in the JPA.
For one more year.
Or, yes, it gives us, and this actually should have been brought to the board in February. The timeline per the JPA agreement is that it would be, if we decided to leave the JPA, we would have to notify them preliminarily by February and do a final resolve by April. And somehow in our schedule of resolutions that we bring forward, this got moved to April instead of in February. So we're doing it a little bit late this year. And we've made the adjustment on the calendar so that we make sure and bring it forward when we're supposed to.
So this requires approval by the board?
Yes.
Okay.
Make the motion.
Do we have a second?
I will second.
Just for board discussion, I would like to take a look at this next fall to see whether we want to continue with Stay Well.
Just to kind of give you some information on the Stay Well, the rate setting meeting, we've not had any rate increases, I believe at this district for 3 years, and it's looking like there will be none or very minimal rate increase this year, but the rate setting will happen at our May committee meeting, and I'll be able to find out at that time if we are going to have any increases. Right now, the industry standard is looking at between a 12 to 18% increase in health insurance rates, and we have not seen that in the past, or are we seeing that now? But I will be bringing that forward to you after the May meeting.
I just am confused about what Stay Well is. I mean, it started out as something completely different with the same name, and so I would like to just focus in a little bit on what this is.
Okay.
I understand it's a JPA, Joint Powers Agency.
Yes.
With other districts in the county.
Mm-hmm.
Some of the districts, is it correct that some of the districts have withdrawn this year?
No,
Okay.
there is no districts that have withdrawn this year.
Okay.
No.
All right. I would just like to understand it a little bit more and do it before we're point of no return for the following year.
Okay.
Do we have any public comment on it? Okay, we'll vote. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? None. Approval to increase to meal prices.
Yes, we have our Director of Fiscal Services, Christy Wisdom, available to discuss this part. This is sort of a standard procedure. Food prices go up periodically. So we are asking for an increase in the, I believe, the breakfast meal. Yeah, and it's only a 10-cent increase that we're asking.
Do we have a motion?
I'll make the motion to approve. Didn't we raise prices last year?
We did. Let me just, I'm Christy, Director of Food Services for Willits Unified. Let me just say that over the past several years, we have not done a paid lunch equity worksheet. So when I became Food Service Director, we were quite behind on our meal prices. And so, because the state only allows us to do a 10-cent increase per year, with this 10-cent increase this year, and with a 5-cent increase next year to our brunch only, not lunch, we'll be right where we should be.
Okay. So do we have a motion on this?
Because I should have went
I
up
have a
25
motion.
cents, but because we can't, I have to do it in 10-cent
We need a second.
increments.
Did we get a second yet?
No, let's get a second. We don't really want the information, I
Okay.
mean,
I'm
if
here
we have
for long.
questions.
Well, I have a question.
Yes.
So, did I read this correctly, that we're raising the prices to pay for the free and reduced lunches?
No, no. The state says that we have to charge our full paid students a certain amount, and if we don't, we have to take, it goes by the previous year by a date, and we have to take all of our full paid meal prices, and we enter that into a little calculator at the CDE, and they determine if our paid lunches covers, it has to be up there with the reimbursement of our free and reduced meals. And if it is not, then that has to come out of, we have to pay the difference. So if we don't raise the price to where we should be, then that has to come out. We have to put that in ourselves. So the general fund would have to, or food services would have to make up the difference. But because Willits was so far behind on raising those prices, when I first brought the price increase to the district, we started with lunch. Lunch is where it should be. Brunch, breakfast should have been brought up 25 cents, but because I can only do 10 cents a year.
You're going way beyond her question.
Okay, so no, it has nothing to do with free and reduced. It's paid lunch. You have to have a paid lunch equity that has to, the state mandates it.
This is not supplementing free and reduced.
Okay.
I have to do it every year. And if my paid lunches don't compensate for the full price kids only, if that lunch is not enough and I'm getting more reimbursement for a free or reduced lunch and I'm not getting the same amount from my paid students, then I have to raise prices.
Okay, I understand
Okay.
now. Thank you.
Sorry, I didn't explain that.
No, I understand now.
Any other questions? Okay, we have a motion second. Public comment?
We don't have a second.
Yes, we do.
Good Lord.
We did.
Oh, okay.
I don't know who
Thank you.
seconded. Sorry.
Cynthia.
Thank you.
So, we have a motion second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
I'll vote no. The next item, P, we're gonna poll. Susan Daniel, who is our special investigator, has not completed her investigation. We expect to be getting it toward the end of April. And what we were going to be talking about here is perhaps asking her to make recommendations to the board. But I think that maybe we should see the report first before we do that. I was expecting that we would have had it by now. So I just asked that it be polled. Any objection?
I don't have an objection.
Okay. Next item is public comments for items not on the agenda.
Chair Mary, may I ask, I noticed that you said something was removed.
Yes, the approval of amending the scope of Susan Daniel, which we're just not bringing that forward.
No, earlier, there was an L.
The
Correct.
job description of the Department of Maintenance Operations Administrative Assistant.
Is there an explanation for why that agenda item was pulled?
If I may, the CSEA organization in Santa Rosa called and requested that be pulled at this time so that we can do some additional documentation for it. There were some procedures that need to go on with the bargaining unit voting on that job description. So.
Meaning ours,
Yes,
CSEA?
yes, your bargaining unit, yes. the
So
local.
this delay could be the fact that we're not meeting as often as some of us would like to, CSEA?
I don't know. I don't know
Right.
the reasons. It was a request by your CSEA representative, Holly Lewis. So, yeah, Laura can give you more information if Laura's here.
She's not, and
Okay. It was a
yeah.
request from the centralized CSEA office.
Right.
And that we pull it. And they have actually made contact with with Laura and with the maintenance department regarding it.
Right. Well, can I apologize to board members on behalf of a few members of CSEA for this delay? Because it.
So real quick, it has nothing to do with locally, for that installing of that job description. It actually, so what we've known is the job description was a new job description. Now they're saying, no, we're reclassing this person in this particular duties that they were doing. Well, that all needs to be figured out exactly what's going on with this job description. My original thought and what I was told by the district was that it was a new job description. And the CSEA doesn't fit over okay in places on a salary set. Reclassification is a whole different thing. That's a negotiation issue. That's bargaining and stuff like that.
Okay. So that item.
Respectfully disagree, as just one member of CSEA.
We'll adjourn this meeting of the CSEA and move back to our meeting. And so any other public comment? Hearing none, there's no other.
I will make the motion to adjourn, Chris.
We need public comments for
Oh.
items not on the agenda.
That's what we
just did that.
just did that.
Yeah, then we don't have any others?
Nope.
We have public comments on the agenda.
And we're not encouraging.
Not on the
Okay,
agenda.
all right, thank you.
Do we have public comments not on the agenda?
There's people that would like to speak for public comments.
Well,
on the
then,
agenda.
Well, we called that, so.
Oh, okay. I'll be for a comment. Thank you. Oh, I got moved way over there, but I'll do a little like this, so my back's not toward anybody over there.
It's
my
on the
name's-
camera, Danae.
My name is Danae Loren, I'm a bus driver. Okay, so just so you know, as a school bus driver, we're a commercial licensed driver with a special school certificate, which deems us responsible for the safety of the bus and the safety of our passengers. What that means is that we, as a bus driver, decide when the bus is unsafe. Not our supervisor, not our superintendent, the bus driver. Because after all, it's our license, the students are under our care. So just a little bit real quick, I'm not gonna go into the whole story of, so I deemed a bus unsafe to drive. If you wanna know the full stories, you can talk to me some other time. And I was put on 3 days administrative leave for that decision. So right now, I'm having some issues with the brakes on one of the buses. I drive a small bus. And because there's no qualified, certified bus personnel to ask these questions, I have to just get some advice from other mechanics, school bus mechanics, past or in other districts. And they give me tools, ideas to how to go about to figure out whether that bus is safe or not, because I'm not a mechanic, so I wouldn't know. I just know there's certain things that aren't the same as a bus that's in good working condition would feel like or be like. So I'm told, okay, the bus is okay, you can drive. Well, the person telling me that is not a certified bus mechanic. It's actually a maintenance employee or someone in my management area. So I have major concerns for the good working condition of our school buses as well as student safety, because after all, that's what I'm trained for, to protect all the students and the community members as well as my own license. Thank you.
Thank you, Danae.
Anyone else?
Really quick, on behalf
Kelly?
of Kelly Lavis, special ed, on behalf of Laura Rowland, our special ed teacher who did a donors choose for iPads, she wanted to thank the board and the public for their support. She met her goal and the iPads have arrived and students are going to start using them to read tomorrow. So thank you, and thanks to Donors Choose for special ed iPads.
All right. Anyone else?
Good evening, ladies, gentlemen of the board. My name is Tim Hugel with the California Highway Patrol Motor Carrier Safety Unit. And I know you've all been apprised through several correspondences from my department on the current state of affairs with the transportation of the school buses. I'm here to basically go over some of the violations and ensure that everybody's clear on what transpired, what we found, and the state of the unsatisfactory ratings that have been assigned and are currently in effect at this point in time.
Are you referring to something other than the letter that we received?
No, it's all, there's 2 letters that have been sent. One was in October and then one in February. And I'll brief you a little bit. The Motor Carrier Safety Unit conducts terminal inspections, which are the buses, driver records, qualification files, maintenance records. And then also conducts what's called a carrier inspection, which involves the drug and alcohol testing records for the testing program for drug and alcohol. So this all started, and what I need to say that anything I'm talking about is public information. And anything that has the restriction as confidential information, I can only talk to the administrators within the district who have the authority to be able to discuss that type of information due to the confidentiality. Okay? In October, when the first unsatisfactory was issued, it was issued both for the terminal and for the carrier side for the drug and alcohol testing. And the terminal involved the DMV poll notice program, where the drivers are enrolled under the district sequester code and they obtain periodic reports of the driver's driving activity to ensure they have a valid license of the appropriate class to drive the district buses. and it was found one driver had not been enrolled, which is an automatic unsatisfactory. So that deals with the driver element. The buses themselves.
Enrolled in what? The poll
What's that?
program. Enrolled in what?
DMV poll notice program.
What's a poll notice?
Okay, that's a report that the district receives. If it's no activity on the driver's license, it would be every 12 months. If they're convicted of a moving violation, you would be notified within 48 hours of that conviction. So
What's the program?
what's the program?
Yeah.
It's through DMV,
Right.
and basically the department, your district, excuse me, enters into a contractual arrangement with DMV to obtain this information on these drivers that they enroll under their assigned requester code, and it's due to the, again, the confidential nature of the information. That's the reasoning for the contract.
Are we enrolled in the program?
Yes, you are enrolled,
Okay.
but you failed to enroll all drivers at that time in October.
Are all drivers enrolled now?
I believe so, because we came back in February and assigned a satisfactory in the terminal, and that was part of the reinspection.
Okay.
Okay? So with the terminal, that's a current satisfactory. When we did come back in February, let's back up to October. The drug and alcohol testing program, we found where a driver who was selected in the first quarter of 2015 had not been tested during that selection period. The consortia, the service agents for these programs, do a quarterly selection to have the drivers tested, a percentage of the testing pool. And apparently several drivers were selected, and we found one that had not been tested during that selection period without any reasoning as to why the driver was not tested, any documentation. That in itself is an unsatisfactory. So both an unsatisfactory was assigned again in the carrier and terminal aspects of the inspection.
What was the name of the driver that was?
Chris, it's confidential. Divulge that in this open forum.
You can't divulge who the driver was?
No.
The personnel matter.
No, it's not personnel, it's a matter of public record.
No, it's.
No, it isn't. I cannot divulge that information.
Do you know what the status of the driver was at the time that that person was randomly selected for testing?
As far as the status of their driving a school bus,
Employment.
they were employed.
Okay. Were they in active employment?
I'm assuming so. I was not there at the inspection. When the inspector conducts it, he's verifying that indeed the driver was performing what's called a safety-sensitive function, where they would be then subject to the drug and alcohol testing.
So can you tell us what the proper procedure would be is if you request a random drug test on a driver who is on administrative leave?
Then you would notify your service agent that the selected driver was not available, was not anticipated to come back during that test selection period.
Notify who?
The consortia, your service agent.
Now,
Testing.
The testing agency?
Yes, correct.
Okay. And so if that was done,
It would be documented as to why that driver was not tested, because of the fact we have the record of the selection of the name of the drivers, and there should be a corresponding chain of custody form for the test that would have been conducted.
So is that a record kept by the testing company or by the district?
It's kept by both you and the consortia, the service agent that you're contracted with. They can act as your repository for all the test records.
And in our case, do they?
I don't know if they do or not. I'm not sure if you maintain records. I'm sure they have all of the records, but you may be maintaining some on your own.
All right, I'm sorry I interrupted.
That's okay. We want to make sure everybody's clear on the protocols of the testing program, because that was one of the violations that occurred. So when we go into February for the reinspection, obviously the driver's issue with full notice has been rectified. And so now back to the drug and alcohol, because we were looking to see if, and again, drivers were selected, were they tested, and we found where a driver who was selected, again, this first quarter selection, then was tested into the September third quarter period without being selected, which is a violation. Okay, so you can't back up to a selection period with a driver who was selected in the first quarter and then arbitrarily decide to test them in the third quarter because you didn't do it in the first quarter. Okay, that's a violation of the testing protocols. So, a second unsatisfactory was issued due to that.
So I'm sorry, I'm confused. So the person who was selected in October, or
In
that
the
you
first quarter.
verified in October did not test, then tested, that was wrong.
Correct.
Okay. We
Those
should just
records-
document it.
Those records surfaced during October, because we only take a random sampling of records. We're not looking at each piece of paper for the testing program, or for the terminal for that matter. It's a random selection. Depending on what we find is how deep the audit will entail. So in October, the violation actually occurred, what we found in February of 16, it just wasn't part of that random selection that we looked at. So when we came in February, we're again looking a little more deeply, looking at other documents, and then found this second violation that occurred in September. Now, you have to understand, in October and in February, 2 different inspectors were involved. Okay, which leads me up to the most recent inspection that we conducted, which was in March. And we got a complaint, anonymous complaint on several elements, condition of buses, basically there were 6 allegations, of which we did substantiate 2 of them. One of them being, the one we did substantiate was the fact that a school bus was operated for several weeks without being certified transporting school pupils. Now you have to understand the department does track the school bus certifications that we perform, but we do it in order to manage our workload of school bus certifications that we have to conduct throughout the year.
Was that in your letter? I didn't see that in your letter.
The letter, no, that was not in the letter, because the letter was the follow-up, the second inspection due to unsatisfactory. The complaint, there was no letter, that's why I'm here. Okay, because we had the complaint, we came in and did a random sampling of school bus inspections, and during the course of that, we found where one of the buses was operated for several weeks without being certified. That bus was not available in July of 15 for its annual certification when we came in, because it was in the shop under repairs, it was out of the area, whatever the case was, it wasn't available. And so then nobody notified us when it was available in order to come out to do the certification, and thus the certification expired. It went several weeks before we were in for the annual terminal inspection in October, and then as a random sampling of buses that we selected the one bus that was out of certification that had been operated for several weeks.
I, for one, am not following you, and I would expect you to put something as complicated and convoluted as that in writing so that we could, talk to our staff about it. I mean, I don't think it's really productive to give a complicated explanation, and I mean, it goes by so fast. March, September. I mean, you have to.
Well, what I'm trying to point out is this has taken a period of time to get where we're at here today, and I want to affirm to the board that the department is poised to assist the district in any technical and education guidance that you may need to assist you in achieving compliance and maintaining compliance, because what it appears to me in my years of doing this is we have some personnel involved in these matters who are not knowledgeable in the requirements of what they need to do.
Are we out of compliance to your knowledge right now?
You're on an unsatisfactory terminal or carrier rating, so right now, no. We don't come back within several days or a week after assigning the rating. We let 100 days lapse with the violations that were described. We come back and we'll do another inspection of the drug and alcohol testing program to determine compliance. We're hopeful you'll be in compliance because we're here, we're a phone call away. It is a complicated protocol for drug and alcohol testing, but there's resource available to assist those people who are involved in the administration of that program to ensure they are knowledgeable on what needs to be done.
Okay, Thank you.
Okay, so that's really why I'm here, and to answer any questions you might have on the whole topic of what we're talking about here, you know, within the letters that we wrote, you know, if there's any,
I'd appreciate if you write another letter that explained what you just said a few minutes ago so that we can digest it.
so you want a
Because-
chronological type chain of events of
Well,
what transpired?
what you just described, because I mean, we did have a thorough investigation and a report to us of your letter, but you're raising things that are beyond your letter, and I would like to be able to ask our staff for the explanation.
Okay, definitely. And we communicate with the superintendent directly on these topics. When we come in, we meet with the superintendent in order to get any documents signed and provide any inspection reports and such, so.
Well, you saw it important enough to come here and to say the things that you said, so I'd like to be able to follow what it is you said.
Okay.
And follow up on it with our staff. And so I'd appreciate it if you put that in writing.
Okay, so we'll definitely put together a letter and line out each of the elements, including what transpired with the complaint investigation that we conducted as well.
All right, thank you very much.
So,
Well, unlike President Neary, I'm a little bit more background, so I did follow you and do understand exactly where you are. My question to you is, if we continue to be out of compliance, what are the consequences? Where are we headed?
if it ends up into a third unsatisfactory with drug and alcohol, then the state attorney general would be involved. We don't involve the local district attorney with governmental entities. It would go to the state attorney general.
So are we looking at fines? Are we looking at?
I couldn't tell you what they would do. We only provide the attorney general with our findings, and then they determine the course of action. The highway patrol stays neutral in matters like this because of the fact of the governmental entity, and we let them determine the severity of any punishment if there was to be any. I can tell you this, if you were a private company, trucking or busing company out there right now, you would have a recommendation for suspension of your operating authority both through PUC if you were a bus or through the Department of Motor Vehicles as a truck operator, which would shut you down for 30 days. So
why would it be more severe for a private company than for a public district transporting children?
due to the fact of the public entity nature, the department always has gone to the Attorney General when it gets to a third or fourth unsatisfactory with this severe of a situation. School districts have had buses completely shut down due to lack of maintenance, which is not the case here that we find. Our bigger concern was the fact that a bus was running around not certified transporting school pupils, which the drivers have a role to play in determining is the bus currently certified or not. That's part of their daily vehicle inspection report, as indicated with what you provided, and they should be communicating the bus is not currently certified and not operating it. So the drivers have a large role to play.
Did you say there were two things that you did find valid in the complaint?
Well, as part of the complaint, an element would be the carrier is allowing or permitting buses to be operated in violation of the law, which that would be the second element. Yes, the bus wasn't certified was one of the complaints, and then secondly, it is in violation of the law.
And this was, what you specified earlier was because of an anonymous complaint?
Correct.
In March?
Correct.
So we have, question I would throw out is, did our administration have knowledge that we were operating that bus outside of the law?
It was being operated, the drivers have a role and responsibility, they are your representative, I would say yes, they did. If they were doing their job properly, yes. And you're relying upon them to do so. Yes. Okay, all right, well, thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Any other public comment?
I'd like to make sure we have something in the closed session for next meeting that we can discuss in detail issues surrounding our transportation department, our CHP, the bus purchase, a number of these issues that are clearly.
What would be the basis for the closed session?
I think personnel discipline.
We don't initiate discipline at the board level when it comes through the administration.
How long are we gonna keep pushing this under the table?
Well, the table.
Are we gonna wait until we have a bus
stack?
stack up?
What's that?
Are we gonna wait until we have a crash and we have kids injured?
So what would the closed session, how would that affect that?
I think we need to take a clear look at our administration and how they're handling our transportation department.
Well, we'll have a report by the next meeting. It might be appropriate for us to review that report in closed session.
I think we need to review all of these issues in closed session.
But you have to have a statutory basis for it.
I think you're just trying to push this under the table.
Well, no, I mean, I'm just trying to figure out what would be the agenda. Personnel?
Yes, whatever you want.
We don't initiate personnel actions at the board.
I see nothing stopping us from doing that. I see no policy that prevents us from doing that.
Yeah, there is plenty of policies. There's procedures to follow.
If we find an issue, can we not, if we find out that there is an issue with the information, I'm assuming we can direct our superintendent.
That's who does it. We can direct the superintendent to take specific actions. But we don't start personnel actions at the board level. And I think we gotta make that very clear, because I think there's been a misconception that we're a sort of a star chamber here, and that people can make complaints, and then we just meet in closed session and discipline employees.
I'm not suggesting that we need to meet in closed session and discipline someone, but I think we need to take a look at the issues.
Well, those are all open session items. I mean, if those issues should be in public.
We have not discussed individual performance in a public meeting.
Boy, and we're not gonna do it in closed session as a board either. We don't evaluate, supervisors, the superintendent, and down the line evaluates. We don't do those evaluations. We can hold the superintendent responsible for non-performance, but the superintendent then holds the people that work for the superintendent responsible. It's a chain of command, and I think it's important that it be maintained.
Then I would suggest that our superintendent needs to get to the bottom, specifically with this issue of running a bus around that was uncertified.
Well, the first, it was not in a letter. I mean, we received a letter from the Highway Patrol. We had a very detailed response.
We just had an official from the Highway Patrol tell us the results of that audit.
Yeah, and it should not have been, it should have been in the form of a letter so that the superintendent could have provided us with the information before we're hearing it in
Well, comically enough, in board meetings in the past, we have had people stand up here in front of the board and tell us that these things have been happening, including that specific incident. Now, it's been corroborated by a gentleman from the Highway Patrol. And I'm suggesting that we need to get to the bottom of it.
I thought that was the point of our investigation that we started.
Yes, and we haven't received yet, so we will be receiving that. But the idea that, we're unhappy about something, and that we're going to meet in closed session and start evaluating or taking job actions against employees, it just doesn't happen here.
Okay, I can appreciate that. But as a board member, I'm deeply concerned that we are not taking these issues, we're not putting enough weight on these things that many of these people have been telling us.
Well, you put the weight is in evaluating the superintendent. And in the superintendent evaluation, that's where that's discussed. I mean, and it's certainly legitimate for you to say, I'm giving the superintendent an unsatisfactory performance because I don't think that, things in the transportation department are going right. That's totally, that's our job. But we don't get down into managing
I understand
the
that,
transportation
but
department.
once a year we evaluate the superintendent.
Well, we
So
can do it whenever we want to. We can do it every 6 months if you want to. If you want to have an evaluation of the superintendent on this issue, that would be an appropriate issue for a closed session, but not the idea that we're starting off on an investigation of our own.
Okay. That's considered.
You know, just as a suggestion, it has been in the past that a superintendent can be mandated by the board to get specific information from a department and return it to you and put it as a closed session because it is personnel. You discuss the issue and then in your closed session or as you report out, you can report out that the superintendent will be mandated to discuss issues with whomever was investigated. At that point, they know the direction that you want the superintendent to go in,
Right.
and they can take care of it. And that is sort of what you're asking for. And so it's really not that tough to understand and to do. You just say, superintendent, would you please look into this department over these issues? And you give it a timeline that says, okay, in 2 weeks, I need this information, or 7 weeks, or however long you want to wait. That is the truth.
Okay, sir?
Clarence Ryan, alumni, concerned citizen, former employee. I am saddened to hear what's going on here, people. You guys are taking safety and sweeping it under the carpet. You're on record now for ignoring everything that's going on, in my opinion. So if anything happens out there, you guys are on the hot stick. These issues have been brought up to the superintendent. The manipulative ways, it's been flopped around, turned around into no big a deal. It's been brought to the Board of Trustees. It's obviously has fallen on deaf ears because you guys don't even remember it. I am deeply concerned by these drivers having an uncertified personnel tell them this is safe when they feel it's not safe. They do a checkout. If they don't feel it's safe, you need a certified mechanic to make that decision whether it's safe or not safe. And they're not having that, and I'm saddened. You guys are setting yourself up for a hanging, and it's not appropriate. I'm really saddened. You lied when you said, I told you these buses were not in compliance or won't be in compliance or whatever you said earlier today. Why am I the only one that knew somehow the DPS would have been warranted even if you ran them for 10 years and then they finally worked on them? They were going to be warranted no matter what on these exhaust filters. Another thing is I want you to keep track of the buses that are being wanting to be kept. Bus 4 is the oldest one that has a DPF, and that is one of them that's being wanting to be kept. 1, 6, and 7, they're not as old, under 100,000 miles. One of them's got like 30,000 miles on it. Now come on. If I see a car that's 20 years old and it's got 30,000 miles on it, I'm snagging it than the one that's got almost 200,000. So when they give you their explanation on which buses want to be kept, look at the mileage and the age, okay? Because 3 of them, 1, 6, and 7, are low mileage. 4 and 10, 4 is a 95 and 10 is a 2000, but they're around 180,000 miles. So around this time, you're looking at transmission, engine.
So I just want to make sure that I understand. Your recommendation was that we not buy 2 new buses that we
I never recommended any of that. I just felt that you guys were being manipulative. I told you what I know, that all these buses except 2 and 5 have the DPF, and they will be fixed for free.
Then let me just ask you this. Do you have an opinion of whether we should buy 2 new buses or we should keep the buses that we have?
I don't have an opinion, no, that's up to, I mean, I'm just telling you, the truth, because I felt that you guys had a little opacity you're looking through, it wasn't clear. So that's why I stood up.
So where would the board get that information? Where would it get that recommendation? You know, you were the mechanic.
What recommendation exactly are you talking about?
Well, we have a policy decision to determine whether or not to buy 2 new buses or not.
I didn't give that recommendation.
Well, I mean, Alex, earlier said that you were responsible for us reversing our decision.
No, I did not
Well,
say
now, this is why I was responsible. You guys were told 5 buses wouldn't meet compliance. They needed to go. All I was saying was wrong. Only 2 won't meet compliance.
So
That's all I said.
You don't have a
That's what changed.
recommendation whether we should buy new buses or not?
I don't want to get involved in that. That's not my issue. That's not my, all I want to do is give you guys clarity on stuff that I'm thinking you're being not told for.
Do you think that we could keep the 3 buses if we don't buy the 2 new buses? Do you think that they would be serviceable and that they would?
You know, these
meet our needs?
buses are in cherry condition. So I don't know, you know, if I had the opportunity to buy these and convert them into a motorhome, I would. That's how, and I would go, right now I'm looking into a motorhome and, you know, that's up there, but I'm sure these would do it, but I don't want to spend the time converting it. I want to drive it and relax. So that's how I feel. I've been inside and out of these buses, and I'll guarantee you, the day I left, these things were as good as a lot of them, not only in this county, but in Northern California. And I have seen a lot of them. So.
Okay.
Clarence, cut to the chase. Why do you think we wanted to get rid of those buses? Have something to do with the transmission, perhaps?
They're not automatics. And so, what happens is you get in a driver proficiency. Nobody wants to drive them because they got to shift them. Well, in the day, that's all we had, shifted. It's kind of like an evolution of things, you know. I want an air door because it hurts my hand to physically do the door. But they don't want to drive them because you got to shift them.
We had workers' compensation claims because of stick shifts.
You got workers' compensation for tripping on a curb. So whatever. I mean, I don't know if you do or not anymore. I mean,
2
that's.
years ago, excuse me, I'm sorry, but 2 years ago you had a workman's comp claim for a driver because of shifting and things like that. You don't.
You know how she hurt her hand was the physical opening of the door.
So those claims.
And then it hurt to shift. Well, I mean, that's just getting into garbage, you know.
Okay, could you wrap up, this public comment?
Okay, so you guys are on record now. I feel that
What are we on record of?
knowing that there has been violations and you've been told about it and nothing's been done. The inadequacy of the person running transportation and inexperience.
Did you apply for that job?
What job?
The job of the person that's running transportation?
Name the job title, please.
I don't know. Did you ever
The
apply?
director of
How many people are running
Transportation
transportation?
Well, did you ever apply for the director of transportation?
It was for less money. So I would have, but
You didn't? It didn't apply?
He's not on
No.
trial here, but I just wanna say.
I didn't apply, it was for less money, now come on.
Clarence, during your tenure here,
I'm not experienced to make this place an exemplary place, but you guys run me off.
Clarence, in your tenure here, do you recall ever having an unsatisfactory?
Oh, never, never. That's an embarrassment. That's an embarrassment. But does anybody care? I hope so. I really do, because I am really sincere at this, people. You think I'm full of it. It's all about the safety. So you get an unsatisfactory, what is being affected? Safety. Okay, we can't afford to mess around with that. You cannot afford to mess around with that. Because this cargo is the most precious cargo you'll ever haul. Nobody can dispute that. So, an unsatisfactory is an embarrassment. And I rest.
Thank you, Clarence.
Thank you,
Can I
Clarence.
just give you just a little piece of something?
No.
I'm not gonna do a whole long thing. It's
No.
a public comment on the agenda. Not on the agenda, excuse me.
All right,
So,
if you come
just
to the podium.
Okay, I will.
You have 3 minutes.
I don't even need 3 minutes. I'll just tell you real quick, just some thought of what's all going on here. So we have half our drivers, your school bus drivers, cannot drive manual stick shifts. That's one of the reasons why we need a full automatic fleet. And we've had someone in a position to train those drivers for approximately 2 years, and they still haven't received that training. So we have no training to train the drivers to go out on those buses. So that's just something to think about. Thank you.
Okay.
My name's Dan, I work with the district in maintenance. Just an observation, at the time of an unsatisfactory that the gentleman was talking about with the paperwork and the bus that was out for service, and then it came back. At that time, I believe we had a mechanic in the shop. I think it was Clarence. But the way I feel with the buses is just like us in maintenance. Our first line of defense with buses are our drivers and our mechanics. If the mechanic missed that too, then that's one of our lines of defense broke down.
To clarify that.
No, it's not a debate. Any other public comment?
I didn't miss it. It fell on deaf ears.
Any other public comment?
I will make a public comment on that. Just as the officer, of course you guys know who I am Deborah B. And the public comment on that is that it is up to the bus driver to write that up on your checkout sheet, which is turned into the bus mechanic. It used to be that way. Now it is turned into the director of transportation, which goes through several hands. You have the secretary there, you have our lead. So that checkout sheet is vital information that our mechanic needs, which has been denied. The access to those have been denied and taken away. So at that particular moment, I do not know if it had been taken away at that point. But if the driver didn't write it up on the checkout sheet and it wasn't turned in, the mechanic wouldn't know about it. So, just for the clarification, thank you very much.
Could, I'd like to have an explanation of that, whether there's any reason why it couldn't go to the mechanic and to the director at the same time.
Right. It normally would, but right now, yeah, it would have, but I'll clarify that.
All right,
I'll clarify
I'd
that.
just like to get verification.
Thank you, sir.
Any other public comment?
Chris, I'd like a little more detail. I'd like to know who knew we were driving the bus that was uncertified, if anybody did, and why it was allowed to be driven in that condition at all.
Yeah. I think that's appropriate, and I think you should get, but I think we should ask the CHP to put all that in writing, because it's stuff that we're hearing from the podium. And so I'd like to have their explanation in writing, and then I'd like to have a response from you you can delegate it if you want to, but as, you know, to after we get the written explanation from the CHP.
Very good.
Because I think I don't want to be chasing an asbestos cat. You know, but you know, we didn't understand what he was saying, and
Right.
we're responding to something else.
Mhm.
I'd like to see that in writing.
I'll make sure
Can-
CHP responds first, and then we'll do that. Thank you.
Can I add in, I would like to, I mean, we obviously have a breakdown in our reporting procedures that we've had 2 unsatisfactories, and I guess I don't feel super confident that we're not gonna end up with a 3rd unsatisfactory.
It was already 3
Without-
unsatisfactories.
Well, I meant 2 unsatisfactories as far as the drug and alcohol testing.
Right.
So I guess I'd like to
Yeah.
know.
If we move forward and fix it.
Exactly, I would just like to see what the fix is
Yeah.
for that, to make sure that we're not dropping that ball
Absolutely,
again.
will do.
Okay, can we get an update via email before our next board meeting so we know that there's progress being made on this?
Absolutely.
Thank you.
All right, this meeting's adjourned.
Do
We have a motion and a second.
second?
No, we're not gonna.
I will move.